This is the craziest thing I've ever bloody done. I'm about to start hiking the Pacific Crest Trail here in the United States of America. It's a 4,300 kilometer long trail that runs the entire length of the country from Mexico to Canada. It's going to be a wild, wild journey, and this is day one.
It was a pretty surreal feeling, finally standing at the southern terminus of the Pacific Crest Trail. I was about to embark on the biggest adventure of my life, and taking those first few footsteps as the sun rose was completely euphoric. I'll be walking all day, every day for the next 4 months, and plan to share every step of the journey via these daily trail vlogs. Filming does add another layer of complexity to an already logistically challenging trek, but I want to inspire you guys to get outside as well. The first section of the PCT is through the Southern Californian desert, and despite it being very hot and dry today, it was absolutely stunning. I made it to a pretty cool campsite after walking 41 kilometers on day one. Dinner and hot chocolate capped off an incredible first day on the Pacific Crest Trail. I'll see you tomorrow.
I woke up. It wasn't a dream. I'm actually hiking the Pacific Crest Trail.
Day 2 on the PCT started above the clouds, surrounded by the surprisingly beautiful Southern Californian desert. It is still a desert though, and water out here is pretty sparse. After a few hours of hot hiking, I made it to this awesome little creek and made the most of it with a long break. I had ramen and tuna for lunch, refilled all my water bottles, and had a nice wash off in the stream. I spent the afternoon hiking with some friends I met on trail, Chris and Lisa, and we found an awesome spot to camp for the night amongst these pine trees. I ended up covering about 30 kilometers on trail today, and I'm loving every second. There's a long way to go, but I'm making good progress. See you tomorrow.
Good morning on day 3 of my hike on the Pacific Crest Trail. Last night I camped in this beautiful pine forest with a couple of friends about 2 miles south of Mount Laguna, which is a little trail town on the PCT, and I'm walking in there now for a quick resupply before heading out for another big day on trail.
Planning resupply is an important logistical aspect of through hiking. There are small towns dotted along the PCT, and I'd have to make sure that I'm carrying enough food between each one. After resupplying, I headed back out into the mountains, and the views just get better and better. It was another hot one in the desert today, and it's important to grab as much water as possible when the opportunity arises. I ended up stopping a bit earlier than planned today because I found this incredible tent site with the most spectacular view. After a quick dinner and an incredible sunset, I bunkered down for a good night's rest. I'm getting up early tomorrow with a big day of walking planned. See you then.
This is day 4 hiking from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. I've gotten up just before the sun this morning and it's very cold, but as always out here in the Southern California desert, it's going to get very hot once the sun comes up. And I've got a long way to walk today.
Watching the sunrise while already packed up and walking is one of the coolest feelings ever. But once the sun came up, the dryness of the desert became apparent once again.
I've just walked down this dry creek bed searching for water because there's none out here. And I found this tiny little pool in the shade. It looks pretty grotty, but it's going to have to do.
My breaks throughout the day are usually determined by the little shade that I can find, and my meals are pretty simple. Dry ramen and iced coffee for lunch today. After over 35 kilometers of tough and brutal hiking today, I made it to a highway and hitched into the town of Julian.
Hey, just going to Julian. You can trust me, I'm just a PCT hiker.
I made the most of my time in the beautiful town of Julian. I got my pie at Mum's, hung out with some other hikers, and did my laundry at the American Legion, and had a big feed with some friends. I'll be back on trail tomorrow morning. See you then. Day 5 hiking the Pacific Crest Trail started in the lovely town of Julian. I met another Aussie on trail, Dan, and we hitched out of town together back onto the trail to get some miles in. A big storm is forecasted to hit this section of trail tonight, so we aimed to find a good campsite and bunker down. It was very hot as usual, but the pre-storm winds were rolling through and they kept us pretty cool. The mountainous trail out here in Southern California continues to blow my mind, and we climbed up pretty high today. After about 6 hours hiking, we made it to this water cache that trail angels had left for hikers, which is much appreciated. We camped near the cache with a bunch of other hikers and hoped to get through the storm unscathed. It was a very windy and sleepless night, and the conditions tomorrow morning look to be even worse. See you then.
Day 6 hiking from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. As you can see, it's no longer sunny, so we've got a very different day in store for us today. Woo.
I woke up this morning to some slightly different conditions than usual, with a big storm hitting the mountain range that I was camped on. It was freezing cold, wet, and a little miserable. My emergency poncho got pushed to its limits. I did pass the 100-mile marker of the PCT this morning, which was super exciting, and after about 4 hours of hiking, the storm cleared. I met back up with the trail fam at the iconic Eagle Rock before we headed into Warner Springs to top up on supplies. With backpacks full of food, we continued hiking, and after about 40 kilometers for the day, we found a cool spot to set up camp. Tomorrow I'm planning my longest day on trail yet. See you then.
Day 7, walking from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. Cannot believe it's already been a week. I'm up bright and early this morning, planning a fairly big day on trail. Let's go.
I'm planning to walk over a marathon today, so I got up and moving before the sun to give myself as much daylight as possible. I met up with the trail family around midday, and we headed higher into the mountains, taking advantage of any water source we could find. The views from the high points on the trail today were some of the best yet. Towards the end of the day, I was feeling pretty good still, so I decided to push on solo as the sun was setting.
I just crossed over a marathon, 42 kilometers, 26 miles for the first time so far on the Pacific Crest Trail. The sun's just set on day 7 and I am currently looking for a campsite. Managed to find somewhere to camp just after dark, cooked up a quick feed, and I am heading to bed. That was an exhausting day. I'll see you tomorrow. G'day and good morning from the Pacific Crest Trail. This is day 8 of my walk from Mexico to Canada. I've got one goal today, and that is to make it to Paradise Valley Cafe before it closes at 3 p.m. They apparently serve the best burger on trail, and I've got a fair ways to walk, so let's get going.
It was another early start today, and with views of the San Jacinto Mountains in the distance, I was more excited than ever to get some miles in. It took me about 4 hours to reach the iconic trail stop at Paradise Valley Cafe, and the burger definitely lived up to the hype. The rest of the gang rolled in just before the cafe closed, and we headed back out into trail together. We are heading high into the San Jacintos and eventually the town of Idlewild over the next couple of days. We're expecting some tough trail, plenty of snow, and some incredible vistas. I'll see you tomorrow. This is day 9 walking from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. I'm almost 300 kilometers into my 4,300 kilometer journey, and today I'm heading up into the San Jacinto Mountains. The track up here is pretty rough, and there's no water on trail either.
So there's been pretty much no water up on this high ridge, and there's these occasional springs that are off the trail, but you have to unfortunately go quite downhill. So we've taken the packs off, got all our empty water bottles, and making a trek down to the spring.
After returning to the trail with 4 kilograms of fresh water, we continued climbing amongst massive pine trees and patches of snow. We found an incredible spot to camp, but there wasn't any room for tents, so I set up for my first night of cowboy camping. Tomorrow we're climbing even higher, and there's going to be a lot more snow on trail. See you then.
This is day 10 of my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. We've hit double digits. Out here with Lisa, Dan, and Chris a bit further back. Today is a very exciting day. We are hitting the town of Idlewild in about 4 or 5 hours of hiking. It's going to be very good. And how good's the view?
The views this morning in the San Jacinto Mountains were some of the best I've ever seen, but it was pretty tough hiking with fallen trees, overgrowth, and plenty of snow.
I know walking in the snow isn't that exciting for most people, but for us Aussies where snow is almost non-existent, it's very exciting. It's so cool.
It took us about 5 hours to make it to our exit trail into the town of Idlewild. After a lucky hitch, we made it into town, got a big feed, and organised accommodation for our little trail family. The mayor of Idlewild is a dog named Max, and we were very lucky to meet him and his vice mayor Meadow this afternoon. I'm taking my first 0 day in town tomorrow to recoup and resupply. I'll show you what a day off for a PCT hiker looks like in tomorrow's video. See you then.
This is day 11 hiking from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. I'm taking my first 0 day here in the town of Idlewild. I'll show you how I recover, resupply, and enjoy some downtime.
There's quite a lot of chores to get done after not having a break in almost 2 weeks. First up was visiting the local gear store. Tomorrow I'm planning to summit the snowy San Jacinto Peak, so I picked up some micro spikes and a long sleeve hoodie. Next up was laundry, which is well overdue. Both me and my clothes do not smell good. I then headed back to the cabin to do a little bit of self-care, some stretching, mobility, and clipping my nails. Last but not least was a full resupply. I'm heading out into the wild for the next week, so I need to pack plenty of calories. A mixture of lightweight and high-calorie foods is ideal. I got plenty of ramen, nuts, dried fruits and bars, plus a few treats as well. I spent the afternoon editing and voicing over the daily vlog before heading back out to meet the mares, Max and Meadow. We finished the day with a Mexican feast, ready to get back on trail tomorrow morning. See you then.
This is day 12 of my hike from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. As you can see, we're in the snow. We are doing a little side mission today, climbing up San Jacinto Peak. We hitched out of Idlewild this morning. We're making our way up to the 3,200 meter high mountain, back to the PCT tomorrow.
I had planned to do as many side missions off the PCT as possible before starting, and San Jacinto was one I was looking forward to the most. It's one of Southern California's highest mountains, and it's relatively easy to access off the PCT main route. It took us a few hours of snowy uphill walking, but we made it to the summit and decided to stick around for sunset. It was undoubtedly the best view I've had on trail so far, with 360 vistas of the surrounding wilderness areas and the town of Palm Springs. It was a pretty special moment, sitting up here with people I've only known for a week, who somehow already feel like family, watching the sun disappear over the horizon. We're heading back to the PCT tomorrow with a massive descent ahead. See you then.
This is day 13 of my hike from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. I've just descended San Jacinto Peak this morning. Yesterday, did a little side mission off the PCT main route, but back hiking on the trail now. Incredible views as always. Oh my gosh, it's amazing out here.
Climbing mountains is definitely hard, but sometimes coming down them can be even harder. Today I have 3,000 meters of descending ahead of me, which will definitely test the legs. There was plenty of water this morning around San Jacinto Peak, with the summer heat melting the snow and creating streams almost everywhere. But as I descended further, the snow was long behind me and I was back to the dry desert heat that I've been used to for most of the trek so far. It was a long day on trail today, and I eventually made it to a very windy campsite with some incredible views of the peak I just descended, as well as the wind farm and desert floor that I'll be walking through tomorrow. See you then.
This is day 14 hiking from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. After spending a couple nights at altitude in the San Jacinto Mountains, I am heading back to the desert floor. It's going to be hot, dry, and hopefully pretty damn awesome.
The final descent from the mountains today was absolutely stunning. It warmed up pretty quick though as we hit the desert floor, but luckily some trail friends, Sam and Taylor, brought us some water and treats from the nearby town of Palm Springs. It ended up being one of the hottest days on trail so far, and at around midday we made it to this hiker hub that the employees of the wind farm had set up. I ended up waiting out the heat here for almost 4 hours, but eventually got back on trail to finish the day strong. The landscapes this afternoon were unique compared to anything I'd seen on trail before, and Chris and I decided to push on into the night. Even with a 4-hour break, today was my longest day on trail yet, with well over a marathon walked. The trail tomorrow is supposed to be washed out and pretty rough, which I'm actually looking forward to. See you then.
From everything I've heard, today is going to be quite a challenging day on trail. This is day 15 of my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. Wish me luck.
I got up early this morning and headed into Mission Creek, a 15-mile section of trail that was completely washed away in recent years due to storms. Not only is this section more technical and harder to navigate than usual, but apparently there are some issues with the water, making filtering properly essential. I actually really enjoyed walking in Mission Creek, even if it was a bit slower pace than I'm used to. It reminded me of through hiking Te Aroa in New Zealand last year. If this morning wasn't challenging enough though, I decided to attempt my second side mission of the PCT so far, a 20-mile return trip up San Giorgio Peak, California's highest mountain. I wasn't sure what to expect as I slowly ascended the 3,500 meter peak, but I soon realized why no other PCT hiker had attempted the mountain this season.
So I spent 4 hours hiking this afternoon off the PCT. I've climbed to about 3,000 meters above sea level. I'm absolutely exhausted. And I'm finally in view of the summit that I was planning to climb. It is filled with snow and looked very sketchy, so I've decided I'm going to abandon this mission. No point risking that tomorrow morning. And I'm just going to camp on the trail here. There's nowhere else to camp out here. And then I'll head back to the PCT in the morning.
I ended up finding a fresh set of bear tracks right next to where I camped. Hopefully I don't get any visitors tonight. See you tomorrow.
Good morning on day 16 of my hike from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. I am returning to the PCT this morning from a failed side mission up a big mountain yesterday. As you can see, I'm pretty high up, over 3,000 meters above sea level. Got about 5 miles to walk back to the PCT, and then hopefully going to put in a pretty big day to make up some lost time. Let's go.
It's always pretty special starting my day as the sun is rising, and I was the only human in the area, which was a pretty cool feeling. It took me about 2 hours this morning to retrace my steps back to the Pacific Crest Trail.
I'm back on the PCT now, and I've got a good view of the summit that I was planning on climbing this morning. And there's like big rain clouds dumping rain up there, so very glad I decided to abandon that side mission, and very glad to be back on the PCT.
It wasn't long before I passed the 250-mile marker of the PCT, and eventually I caught up to some of my trail family.
I've just crossed over a marathon so far today, and I've still got a fair ways to camp, so today is going to be my longest day on trail. The legs, the body, the mind all feel really good.
It was a beautiful afternoon of hiking as we inched our way closer to the town of Big Bear, looking for somewhere to camp.
Made it to camp and just ticked over 50 kilometers. It's my longest day on trail. I'm exhausted, but hitting the town of Big Bear tomorrow morning, so plenty of recovery ahead.
The PCT seems to get better day by day. I'm having an incredible time out here, and I'm so grateful that you guys want to follow along as well. I'll see you tomorrow.
This is day 17 of my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. Dan and I have gotten up bright and early this morning to hopefully get into the town of Big Bear Lake as early as possible to give us as much time in town as possible. It's supposed to be really nice there. Should be a fun day.
Getting up early on trail is always pretty tough, but it pays off every single time. It was really a beautiful morning of hiking, but all Dan and I really wanted to do was make it to town. After about 5 hours of hiking, we were in view of this stunning Big Bear Lake and made it down to the road where Bree, a local, came to pick us up.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
First on the agenda when we get into town is always a big feed, and then we checked into the Big Bear hostel, which was really nice. I then headed to the local post office to pick up some packages that were waiting for me.
So I just got back from the post office here in Big Bear Lake, and a couple of my followers and a couple of brands sent me some packages, some care packages. So thank you guys so much for all these goodies. I'll be taking them with me onto the next section of trail.
After meeting the hostel dog Yogi, we headed into town for dinner. Big Bear has a lot going on, and it's really the perfect spot for hikers. I'll take a 0 day here tomorrow to recoup. See you then.
This is day 18 of my hike from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. I am taking a 0 day today in the town of Big Bear. I've done all my chores this morning, my laundry, resupply, shower, and I didn't want to bore you guys with all of that again, so I thought I'd answer some of my most frequently asked questions in today's video. First question, do I wear the same pair of clothes all day, every day? The answer is yes. I've worn this shirt, these shorts, and my underwear all day, every day. No changes of clothes for the last 3 weeks almost. I do wash them in town occasionally, but they do get pretty gross, and that's just life on trail if you want to be ultralight. How do I keep all my electronics charged on trail? Well, I carry 2 battery packs with me from Nightcore that total 30,000 milliamps of power. That usually lasts me between 5 and 7 days on trail. And then when I'm in a town like this, I will charge them at the hostel or at the cafe, and should be good to go for the next section of trail. Speaking of electronics, what do I use to film and edit all of these daily videos? Everything is shot on my iPhone. I've got an iPhone 15 Pro Max, and I edit everything on my phone as well. So it's a pretty simple setup. I carry a little tripod with me as well, and that's what I do everything on. Where do I poop on trail? This is probably a pretty gross subject for some of you, but it's a very popular question. It's pretty simple. I'll head off trail at least 50 meters, make sure I'm not near any campsites or water sources. Then I'll dig a small little cat hole, do my business. And I'm not cleaning myself up with toilet paper out here. I'm actually using a backcountry bidet. That's because you have to take out toilet paper with you. You can't bury it on the Pacific Crest Trail, and I don't want to be carrying out too much used toilet paper. So I clean myself with a bidet and bury it all and head off on my merry way. Can you show us your progress on a map? Yes, well, I'm currently in the town of Big Bear Lake, taking my 0 day, and I've walked about 280 miles. I've got a long way to go, as you can see, and I'm very much looking forward to it all. All right, that's it for me today. That went a bit longer than planned, sorry. Hopefully you found it interesting. If you have any other questions, please leave them in the comments. I'm heading back out into the PCT tomorrow. Very excited to hit the trail again, hit some big miles, and continue sharing the journey with you all. See you then. This is day 19 of my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. Me and the trail fam had an incredible day staying in Big Bear Lake yesterday, but we've ascended out of town back onto the PCT this morning. I'm looking forward to a fun few days in the wild.
I had actually really missed the trail after spending the last day and a half in the town of Big Bear, and with a couple of new members in the trail family, we had planned to walk almost a marathon today. It was a day filled with plenty of obstacles, but as always, it was mind-blowingly beautiful as well. We'll have about 4 days of walking before we reach our next resupply point in the town of Wrightwood, and there's plenty to look forward to in this next section. We found a pretty cool spot to stop for the day and set up for a cozy night of cowboy camping on the beach. Tomorrow there's supposed to be some natural hot springs on the trail, which is pretty exciting. See you then. This is day 20 of my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail, and this morning we walked into the incredible Deep Creek Natural Hot Springs. The hot springs were extremely warm and relaxing and are caused by geothermal activity forcing hot water out of the earth. We certainly made the most of our time here and even got in some jumps off some nearby rocks. We did have to get some big miles in today though, and we followed the beautiful Deep Creek River for most of the afternoon. With views of the trail ahead, we pushed late into the day, covering about 46 kilometers on day 20. We found a spot to squeeze all our tents in and enjoyed family dinner around the picnic table. Tomorrow we hit the only McDonald's on the entire PCT. See you then.
Some of you might think this is gross, some of you might think this is awesome. Today is day 21 walking from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. And today I walked past the only McDonald's on the PCT. There's a popular Haika challenge surrounding this McDonald's. About a day and a half after you pass the McDonald's is the town of Wrightwood. And the idea is you fully resupply for that day and a half trek using only McDonald's menu items. That's today's mission. Let's get to Macca's.
It was a gloomy, windy morning on trail this morning, and more than any fast food, I was just excited to get indoors. I made it to the famous McDonald's after 5 hours on trail and met up with about 20 other PCT hikers. I haven't eaten McDonald's in a very long time. It's not really even food in my opinion, but for the sake of the McDonald's resupply challenge, I ordered up. A quarter pounder for lunch, plus cheeseburgers and nuggets to go. This afternoon was spent climbing high back into the mountains, and the gloomy weather continued. Cheeseburgers fueled the steep climb and big miles towards the end of the day.
I've just crossed over the marathon mark on day 21 after this massive climb onto this mountain range. As you can see, I'm in the clouds now, which is pretty cool. Almost at camp. I'll sit down for dinner, another couple of McDonald's burgers, but it's been an incredible day so far. Really cool scenes at the moment.
I eventually made it to camp with the fam, enjoyed a gourmet dinner, and then headed to bed out of the wet and the wind. Tomorrow we'll hopefully hit the town of Wrightwood for our next resupply. See you then.
I've walked 400 miles so far on the Pacific Crest Trail. I've got well over 2,000 to go on this walk from Mexico to Canada. My shoes are in bad shape today, but I am heading to the town of Wrightwood to resupply, hopefully get some new shoes, and then head back out into the mountains. Welcome to day 22.
I woke this morning to one of the best sunrises I've had so far on trail, and with only a few hours to walk to get into town, I was a pretty happy man. As always, food was first on the agenda when arriving, and then I was very excited to be able to replace my deteriorating shoes. I wear Hoka Speedgoat 5 trail runners on the PCT, and they suit my feet better than any other shoe I've tried. No foot issues or blisters at all. After a quick resupply, the trail fam and I were lucky enough to be invited to stay at Camp Lolek, a local summer camp in Wrightwood. Two of the staff, Claire and Paige, really spoiled us with beds, showers, laundry, and even a home-cooked dinner. The generosity of complete strangers continues to blow my mind out here. We'll be back to the trail tomorrow. See you then.
This is day 23 of my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. Spent an incredible night last night in Wrightwood. Thank you to Claire and Paige from Camp Lolek for hosting us. It was amazing. But we're back on the PCT, only planning to do about 10 miles towards the summit of Mount Baden-Powell, which will be tomorrow's mission, getting to the summit as early as possible. Should be a good day.
If you followed me for a while, you'll know that most of the hiking I do is completely solo. To be honest, I thought I'd walk the Pacific Crest Trail solo as well. I usually prefer it that way. Somehow I've found myself walking with the same group of humans for nearly a month now. Our little trail family has grown to 7 strong, and it's now an absolute essential part of the experience out here. We only hiked for a few hours today before settling into an awesome campsite in the mountains, enjoying food and hot chocolate by the campfire. I can't wait to see what the coming days and weeks have in store for us. See you tomorrow.
It's another side mission summit day here on the Pacific Crest Trail. Today is day 24, walking 4,300 kilometers from Mexico to Canada. I'm currently on my way up to Mount Baden-Powell, which is a fairly iconic mountain on the PCT. It should be a lot of fun. A lot of climbing though, so it's going to be a tough day.
This morning started with a massive climb up towards the summit. The trail started off with nice gradual switchbacks, but soon snow covered everything and we forged our own path directly up the mountain. It was a tough few hours on trail, but worth every single step as things opened up as we neared the peak. It's pretty cool having such diverse environments and conditions on the supposed desert section of the PCT. After summiting, we pushed forward through some spectacular sections of trail. I made another quick side trip up Mount Williamson, which was pretty cool, before we were forced onto the road for 5 miles due to a trail closure. Today was the toughest day on track for me so far, with over 4,500 meters of elevation change and a marathon distance walked. I think it's time for a big sleep. I'll see you tomorrow.
So I've got a bit of a dilemma this morning. My main battery pack died last night, which means I have no way of charging any of my devices. Filming these videos does chew through a lot of battery on my phone, and I'm about 2.5 days away from the nearest town. I think there may be one option on the trail today to get my devices charged up, but we'll have to wait and see. Anyway, this is day 25 of walking the Pacific Crest Trail. I hope you enjoy.
It was a stunning morning on trail, filled with colour and life, and after a few hours, I made it to a road.
So I've heard about this place about 2 miles off trail called Angel's Crest Christian Camp. And apparently they're really friendly to hikers, so I'm hoping they'll let me charge up my phone so I'm not so stressed about running out of battery, and I'll probably take a bit of a rest up there as well.
Not only did the team at Angelus Crest let me charge my phone, they also fed me well and made sure I was all set to head back on trail.
So I ended up spending about 2 hours here at Angelus Crest Christian Camp. Absolutely incredible generosity. They fed me a big breakfast, let me charge my devices, had coffee. Oh, so good.
I eventually caught up with the trail fam that afternoon, and we ended up walking over a marathon for the second day in a row. At our planned campsite, we got an incredible surprise with the trail angels showing up with pizza and soda for hikers. The trail community here is so unbelievably kind, and these small acts make such an impact on us as thru hikers. I headed to bed as the clouds rolled in with a full stomach and a big smile. I'll see you tomorrow.
I've got 2 words for you guys today. Trail magic. If you saw yesterday's vlog, you would have seen how spoilt I was with random strangers feeding me and looking after me on trail. And today, it looks like there'll be some more trail magic ahead. We've read a comment on the navigation app we use for the PCT announcing that there'll be trail magic all weekend in about 20 miles from my current position. So that's something to look forward to today on day 26 of walking from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail.
The magic started earlier than expected today, with low cloud filling the valleys below the trail. I moved pretty quickly this morning with the allure of food ahead and arrived at the Snow Angels Trail Magic around lunchtime. They had food and drink available to all hikers at no cost, and the trail fam rolled in one by one to enjoy the treat.
So I just left the Trail Magic, amazing couple hours hanging with other hikers, getting a lot of food in. Massive thank you to the Snow Angels for providing that. I'm absolutely blown away by the trail community here on the Pacific Crest Trail. So much generosity and love just freely given to hikers, and it's been really special. One of my favorite parts of the trail so far.
The afternoon hiking was pretty relaxed, and just as we crossed the marathon mark for the 3rd day in a row, we were greeted by 2 lovely ladies offering us even more trail magic. We could not believe our luck and happily accepted a home-cooked meal and good conversation. We settled down to camp at a nearby RV park, amazed at the incredible people we had met today. Tomorrow we head into the town of Agua Dulce to resupply. Not that we need much food, as we haven't eaten much of our own over the last couple days. I'll see you then.
This is day 27 of my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. Today is a fairly relaxed and short 10 miles into the town of Agua Dulce for my next resupply. So instead of my normal vlog, I thought I'd give you guys a little trail life update instead. I'm currently at about mile 450 on the Pacific Crest Trail. And if you're wondering why in the caption below it says that I've walked a total of well over 500 miles, that's because I add all the extra miles I do on side trips to my total mileage. The PCT is about 2,650 miles long, and by the end of this trek, I'm hoping to have walked over 3,000 miles. I just want to see as much of the West Coast as I possibly can while I'm out here. If you're not already aware, the PCT is roughly split up into 5 sections. The SoCal Desert, the Sierra, Northern California, Oregon, and Washington. And I am currently very close to the end of section 1. About a week to go in the Southern California desert, then I'll be heading into the Sierra. The Sierra is going to be very different and a whole lot more challenging than my first month on trail, with higher altitudes, more climbing, more snow, more technicality. I'm really looking forward to it, but no doubt it's going to be very hard. So am I ready for the Sierra? I've had a few questions around my confidence going in, and honestly, I actually couldn't be more excited for it. I feel really fit and strong. I think I've paced myself perfectly over this first month of hiking. The body feels incredible, no niggles. And regarding the technical side of it, going up high altitude passes on ice, I'm really confident with an ice axe and micro spikes. I spent a month in Nepal last year mountaineering, so I think it'll be a bit of fun, and I'm really looking forward to the challenge. All right, before I go today, I just want to say a massive thank you to all of you for following along this journey. I'm blown away with the support. I read every DM, I read every comment. I'm sorry I can't get back to you all, but I am just so grateful that you guys want to watch and support this journey. A special shout out to my Instagram subscribers and my Patreon members for financially supporting the trek. I literally couldn't do it without you guys. Love you all very much. All right, that's it for today's video. Sorry I rambled a bit. The next few days on trail are going to be some of the most desert I've experienced as I head into the Mojave. It's going to be quite interesting, and I look forward to sharing with you guys. I'll see you tomorrow. Today has already been a day of two halves. Started off with a wonderfully lazy morning in the town of Agua Dulce. Good coffee, good food. Then we finally got on trail and were greeted with a juicy, almost 1,000 meter vertical climb in the blistering heat. But regardless, very happy to be back on trail after a Nero day yesterday. For those who don't know what a Nero day is, for some context, a 0 day is a day on trail where you walk 0 miles. It's essentially a day off, a rest day. And a Nero day is a near 0 day, so a day that you walk a lot less miles than usual, usually into a town. I do love Nero days. I still am able to get miles in, but it usually involves a sleep in and plenty of time in the afternoon to resupply and relax. This is not a Nero day though. I'm hoping to get in some pretty big miles on day 28 of my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail.
It was a blisteringly hot and very hilly day on the PCT, and as has been usual lately, water is in short supply. Despite the difficulty, it was a beautiful day of hiking, and we're able to set up camp by this road in Green Valley. Tomorrow is supposed to be even hotter and drier. I can't wait. See you then.
Today is going to be another really long day with plenty of miles ahead. This is day 29 on my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail.
If I'm honest, today was probably my least favourite day so far on the PCT. It was hot, dry and fairly uninteresting. If only one day in every 30 is like this though, it's going to be a bloody good through hike. I didn't feel much, so I thought I'd give you guys an insight into my sleep system that I use every night on trail.
So this is my camping and sleep setup for the Pacific Crest Trail. I am rocking the Durston X-Mid Pro one-person tent. Absolutely love this thing, super sturdy, super easy to set up and ultra light. I've got the Thermarest Near Air X Lite. I've actually got the short version, so my legs kind of hang off the end, which saves a bit of weight and doesn't really change the comfort for me. I'm using the Aussie-made Neve Waratah quilt. Super warm, super flexible. I love this quilt, it's awesome. Usually I wrap my down jacket up with my buff, and that's my pillow. And it's a pretty simple setup overall, but comfortable, warm, and gets the job done. This is day 30 walking from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. It's kind of surreal. I've been out here for 30 days straight. It doesn't quite feel like it, but I'm loving every day. And I've got about 20 miles to walk into Haika town today, which is supposed to be quite an interesting little stopover on the PCT. Let's get to it.
It seems to be getting unbearably hot a lot earlier in the day than usual lately, but passing the 500 mile marker on the PCT was a nice boost of energy to keep pushing on. We eventually made it to the iconic Haika town after 8 hours of walking today, and we were pretty ready to take a load off. Haika town, while unique, didn't have quite what we wanted, so we decided to hitchhike to the nearby Weeville market. We were able to resupply there, get some hot food, and they even let us camp for free in their courtyard. Tomorrow we'll be attempting our biggest hiker challenge so far, 40 miles in one go with no sleep. I'll see you then.
We are hiking the infamous Los Angeles Aqueduct tonight. Not only that, we're planning to hike about 40 miles continuously all the way to the town of Tehachapi. We're going to hike all night and into tomorrow, as long as it takes to hike the 40 miles. This is day 31 and 32 of the Pacific Crest Trail.
Walking this section at night is pretty common on the PCT to avoid the dry, brutal heat and lack of shade. Walking 40 miles in one go without rest or sleep is not common though, and if successful, it'll be the longest me or any of the trail family have walked.
All right, we are 5 miles in so far. As you can tell, the sun is gone. We've got a long way to go tonight.
With headlamps on, we braved the night, moving at a pretty good pace.
That's 15 miles done. We've just crossed over midnight. About half an hour ago, I was feeling very tired. I was stumbling a bit, but I've had some caffeine and now I'm feeling awake and alive again. Not even halfway to our 40-mile goal, but I'm optimistic we can get there. That's 20 miles done. It's just past 2 a.m. Extremely windy, but feeling bloody good.
With the hours and the miles ticking by, the gang was feeling pretty strong, but eagerly awaiting the sunrise.
All right, that is a marathon done. 26 miles. We are about an hour away from sunrise. Still plenty left to hike, but getting that light back is gonna make this a whole lot easier. The sun is up. I've just crossed over 30 miles, or almost 50 kilometers. I feel reinvigorated with this new light, this new day. Got just over 10 miles to go, maybe 12 miles left to Tehachapi. Keen, feeling good. Let's knock it out.
Watching the sunrise after hiking through the entire night was one of the coolest feelings I've had so far on the PCT. I felt a whole new wave of energy hit me and I was ready to smash out the final miles.
35 miles done, and all of a sudden it's getting very, very hot, which is the whole reason we hiked last night, to avoid this heat. Luckily, there's only about 5 miles to go.
The final couple miles were a bit of a slog, but with some unique views, I managed to get it done.
16 hours later, 41 miles or 66 kilometers walked. I've made it to the road into Tehachapi. I need to catch a ride and get some bloody sleep. This is day 33 walking from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. I'm in the town of Tehachapi taking a 0 day, and I'm doing a full resupply at my first ever Walmart, which is pretty exciting. I've got 7 days ahead on trail without resupply, so a lot of food needs to be bought today. I thought I'd bring you guys along, show you what food I buy and what food I eat on trail. All right, I am back from Walmart. This is the haul. A massive shout out to Bob's Red Mill and Russell Brown, who sent care packages to Tehachapi to help with this resupply as well. You guys are legends, thank you so much. But I'm going to repackage all of this so it fits into my bag a bit better. Then I'm going to go through everything I'm bringing with me onto the trail for the next week. So this is everything I'm carrying for the next 7 days on trail. Kind of got it somewhat organized. Here are my breakfasts. So some oatmeal and a bar. In my oatmeal, I'm going to be putting some whey protein, some honey and some dried fruit. So it should make for a nice breakfast every morning. For lunches, I've got tortillas, peanut butter, a bit of pepperoni, some Doritos. I usually kind of do a bit of a mix of everything in my tortillas, sometimes a bit of honey as well. And it's a nice, easy, quick lunch. Don't have to get the stove out or anything. And then dinners, I've either got a dehydrated meal, or some nights I'll have ramen with some beef jerky in the ramen as well. So a pretty simple dinner, plenty of protein and all of that. And then I've got a bunch of snacks as well. So got a bunch of bars. I've got, some treats here and there, some homemade trail mix, some more crisps. Got my coffees, got my electrolytes, got my supplements in here, which are actually a supplement that I'm working on developing at the moment, which is really exciting, and these have been a huge help so far on trail. That's everything for 7 days on trail, and somehow I got to fit all of this in my bag. These are by a long shot the heaviest packs we've carried so far on the Pacific Crest Trail. We've got 7 days worth of food. There's also some long water carries in this section, so it's going to be pretty tough. This is day 34 of my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail.
We started this morning by walking through the Tehachapi wind farm, and it definitely made sense why they've put so many turbines here. After a few hours, we made it to Highway 58 and began our ascent back into the mountains. We are on the verge of a Southern Californian heat wave, and we're definitely noticing it getting much hotter. Despite the heat, I felt really strong today and decided to push on further after the trail fam set up camp.
For the first time in what feels like a few weeks, I'm going to be camping alone tonight. The trail fam have set up a few kilometers back, but I feel really good today, so I want to push on for a marathon. It's going to be a bit weird being without them at camp, but we should be able to meet up again in the next couple of days.
In the past, I've almost exclusively walked alone on big trails, so I think I'll try that again and walk by myself for the next few days. I'll see you tomorrow.
Hiking alone versus hiking in a group on the Pacific Crest Trail. I've been asked which I prefer a lot lately, and seeing as I've left my trail family temporarily and I'm hiking alone for a few days, I thought I'd talk about it. So in my experience so far, there's been a couple big benefits of hiking with a group. First one being socialization. I'm a massive introvert in everyday life, but I have really enjoyed hanging out with our group of 7. I guess finding the right people is super important, but the laughs, the conversations, the company has been really important to me so far in this trek. I feel like it's helped me not miss home as much, having people around me on the trail that I feel like I've become like a bit of a family. The other big benefit I would say is safety. Being in a group means you're way less likely to be attacked by a bear or a mountain lion. Not that it's very highly likely to happen if you're solo, but you do get that peace of mind being in a group. You just have people around if something does go wrong. If you get injured, if you run out of water or food, whatever it may be, being in a group just gives you that sort of safety net that someone's kind of always got your back, which is really nice. So are there any downsides to walking in a group versus walking alone? For me, there's only really one big one, and that is just the limitations that you have on pace and distance walked each day. If you're a faster hiker and you're in a group, you might have to slow down. If you're a slower hiker and you want to stay with the group, you might have to speed up. Luckily for me, the group I've been in have been walking a very consistently high pace and distance each day, which has suited me really well. Overall though, I definitely prefer hiking in a group, which I didn't think I'd say out here, but it's been an incredible time with the trail family so far. We'll meet up again in a couple of days, I'm sure. I'm planning to do a couple side routes in the next 2 days or so, and so they'll surely catch up to me. But yeah, this is day 35 of walking the Pacific Crest Trail, and seeing as I'm alone, I am planning to do some pretty big miles.
Today was an incredible day on trail. My body felt really good, and while it did get pretty hot, I walked through plenty of shady pine forest, which gave me a break from the sun. I passed the 600-mile marker, made some animal friends, and after 28 miles of walking, found an awesome spot to set up camp. Tomorrow I'm heading into some more exposed trail sections as this heat wave really kicks off. See you then.
There are no natural water sources on trail today for the next 30 plus miles, and apparently it's going to get up to 40 degrees Celsius, which is ridiculously hot and a little bit worrisome with the limited water. Luckily, some trail angels have apparently set up some water caches along this stretch of trail, and so those are going to be my lifeline today. This is day 36, walking from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail.
It was a really beautiful morning descending back down to the desert floor. The heat kicked in early though, and I arrived at the first water cache for the day just in time. Trail angels lug out hundreds of gallons of water throughout the through hiking season, and we couldn't be more grateful for them. Sections like this would be near impossible without these water caches. The temperatures continued to soar throughout the afternoon, and even with the full water carry, I was running low once again.
It's about 2 p.m. and it is very hot. Very hot this afternoon. I'm still about 4 miles away from the next water cache, so I'm just trying to push there, get some more water, and hopefully find some shade. Made it to water cache number 2 for the day. Got some water. That was a tough slog this afternoon in the very hot summer heat. It was a toasty one, but big thanks to the trail angels who maintain this water cache. They even stock battery packs here, which is kind of crazy. I can charge my phone while I have a little bit of a break in the shade, and then after I've rested for about an hour, go up that mountain to find a campsite. What a day.
After a grueling climb, I finished the day with 28 miles walked. 2 huge days in a row, and the legs are feeling absolutely amazing. Tomorrow the heat picks up yet again, which will be a real test. See you then.
We are amidst a Southern Californian heat wave this week. Yesterday was hot. Today's supposed to be a lot hotter somehow. So I've gotten up bright and early at about 4 a.m. to get a couple hours of walking in before the sun comes up. Hopefully avoid some of that heat. But it should be an interesting day on trail, especially because there's very limited water out here. Still in the desert. It's going to be tough. This is day 37 of my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail.
It's always incredible watching the sunrise while already up and walking, but with the sun comes its biting heat.
I'm about 3 hours in. Today 37 and I'm already out of water, which is a bit annoying. I didn't bring that much water to camp last night because I knew I'd start early and I shouldn't need much, but it got so hot before the sun even came up. This heat wave is legit. Luckily I'm about a mile away from the next water source, so very keen to get there.
The rare creeks and springs are the main targets that hikers aim for throughout the day in this section. Water is life and we need a lot of it.
So it's past midday now and it is getting very hot. I'm almost at Walker's Pass, which is like the only main road in this 7-day stretch that I'm on. A lot of people get off trail there to some nearby towns, but as you guys know, I've got a 7-day food carry and I'm going to be walking all the way to Kennedy Meadows.
At Walker's Pass, there's a water cache set up by a local, and I even got spoiled with some trail magic as a car rolled up just before I was about to leave. Generosity like this from complete strangers always gives me a huge boost on trail, and the climb out of Walker's Pass was slow but steady. I found an incredible spot to camp up on the ridgeline and settled in for the night. The desert continues tomorrow. See you then.
For the last month I've walked over 700 miles. I've still got almost 2,000 left to go on my journey. Today is supposed to be the hottest day so far. I'm currently hiking amidst a Southern Californian heat wave. It's gonna get toasty today. This is day 38 of my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail.
Today started off as beautiful as ever, and it's pretty exciting to be only a couple of days away from my next town stop.
It's getting very hot very early once again, which makes sense. We are in a heat wave. The one upside though on trail today is that there's a lot more water accessible than the previous few days. The water carriers will be much shorter, which means a lighter pack overall, which is just a huge help. I think there's like a stream every 5 to 8 miles today.
Even with water becoming more common as I head further north, it's still important to carry enough between each source. It's a skill in itself, water carrying. You don't want to carry too much because water weighs a lot, but especially in conditions like these, you definitely don't want to run out either.
So it's about 2:30 in the afternoon, aka peak heat of the day. This is by far the hottest it's been so far on the PCT. I'm really having to ration my water actually because still about 5-6 miles to the next water source and I'm just going through it. It's ridiculously hot, there's no wind, but it's all downhill for the next little bit, so should be able to make it to the water. Tough out here though, very tough.
Sometimes, even when you miscalculate your water carry, the trail provides. In the middle of nowhere on this rural dirt road, trail magic appeared this afternoon. Cold drinks and homemade chili. An absolute dream. I arrived to camp shortly after with 28 miles walked. 1 day left to town. See you tomorrow.
Today is a very exciting day on the PCT. I am hitting the town of Kennedy Meadows South, which officially marks the end of the desert and the start of the Sierra Nevada. Super exciting. It's a pretty major milestone. This is day 39 of my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail.
With only 20 miles left to walk and views of the Sierra Nevada in the distance, it was a morning filled with anticipation. I passed the 700-mile marker and the first real river I've seen in a long time before arriving at the road into Kennedy Meadows South.
That is the desert complete. This road marks the beginning of the Sierra Nevada. Could not be more excited to be here. This road also takes me into the town, the very small town of Kennedy Meadows South, which is fairly iconic on the PCT as it's the gateway to the Sierra Nevada. There's a general store, some camping options, some gear stores, and I'm heading in there now to take a bit of a rest and wait for the trail family to catch up. Wow, very surreal to be here. Very excited to be here. Incredible.
It was pretty surreal walking into Kennedy Meadows South. I'll take the next 2 days here to resupply and prepare for the next challenge. Dan and Emma arrived to town a few hours after me, and the rest of the trail fam should get here tomorrow morning. We will head into the Sierra Nevada together, and I can't bloody wait. See you tomorrow.
This is day 40 and 41 of my hike from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. As you can tell, I'm not currently hiking. I've taken my first back-to-back rest days here in the small town of Kennedy Meadows South. I honestly haven't filmed much over the last 2 days, but I thought I'd recap with you guys a little bit what I've been up to and how I'm preparing for this next section into the Sierra Nevada. So I've spent a lot of time relaxing, as you can imagine, in this 48-hour period.
a lot of time eating as well. I've actually lost like 5 or 6 kilograms so far on the PCT, and so I'm fattening myself up a bit while in town, while I have the chance to access a lot of calories. And yeah, I've got a huge food carry to start off the Sierra Nevada, about 7 days, and we're going straight uphill into altitude. And so getting any food in I can, any extra calories I can while in town, has been really important. Getting in lots of burgers and pizza and lots of fruit and vegetables as well where I can. As you guys know, Kennedy Meadow South marks the end of the desert and the start of this next section, and with the new section comes new challenges. I've had a lot of time to prepare and plan out our route with the trail family as well. We've also had to pick up a bunch of new gear. I've got a bear canister for the first time on the trek, which is a bit of extra weight and bulk in the pack, so that's been interesting trying to fit that in, and filled that thing with 7 days of food, as I mentioned. I've also had to pick up an ice axe and my micro spikes, because we'll be going up pretty high, some high altitude passes and mountains on this next section, and there's going to be a lot of snow and ice up there, so having those extra pieces of gear, that snow gear, as a safety precaution is really important as well. Other than that, it's just been awesome to catch up with the trail family. Met a bunch of Aussies here in Kennedy Meadow South as well. I mean, there's hundreds of hikers here. It's kind of where everyone meets and stops to prepare for a bit as you finish the desert and head into this next section, which is so different. So it's been awesome just to catch up with everybody and yeah, have a really good time here. The vibe's awesome. It's a small town, but becomes really lively during through hiking season, and it's been cool to experience that. All right, that is enough from me for now. I'm very excited for this next section. I hope you guys are too. The daily vlogs will continue, although mobile reception is going to be very limited over the next few weeks. And so I'm hoping to be able to post daily vlogs still, but sometimes I might miss a day. So if I don't post, I'm not dead. I just don't have reception, and I'm trying my very best. Thanks so much for following along, guys. I really appreciate you all, and I'll see you soon. We are entering the Sierra Nevada. After 41 days of walking through the desert, we are heading up to altitude to a whole different environment, one of the most beautiful places on earth. I am so bloody excited. This is day 42 of my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. Entering section 2 of the PCT was pretty damn awesome, especially considering the Sierra Nevada is often considered to be the best part of the entire trail. We quickly noticed the environment starting to change as we ascended into the mountains. Water became more abundant and everything was a lot greener. If today was just a taste of what's to come, it's safe to say I'm pretty excited for the next few weeks of hiking. We arrived at camp just as the sun was setting and settled in for the night, ready to go higher and farther into the High Sierra tomorrow. See you then.
We have woken up to absolute paradise this morning, gotten our first taste of the Sierra Nevada, and today we are climbing up a lot higher towards the high altitude passes and mountains of this next section, which is very exciting. No doubt it's going to be a tough day though. New challenges await. This is day 43 of my hike from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail.
In a few short days, we'll be ascending some of the highest passes and mountains in the entire USA. In the meantime though, we're making sure to not overexert ourselves too soon.
So after a big climb this morning, we have reached about 10,500 feet above sea level, or 3,200 meters above sea level. So we're starting to get to that point where altitude sickness becomes a reality and a possibility. So we've been really trying to stay hydrated, not overexert ourselves. And we've just come into view of some of the really high passes and mountains that we'll be going over the next week, which is both scary and very exciting at the same time.
I'd been hoping to see at least one bear while on the PCT, and this afternoon I got my wish. A curious golden cub right next to the trail. After almost 40 kilometers for the day, we made it to camp and set up for the night. I grabbed some water from a nearby stream and ate dinner in my tent to get away from the hordes of mosquitoes. I'll see you tomorrow.
We've woken up 3,000 meters above sea level amongst these huge trees on this incredible ridge line in the Sierra Nevada. Life doesn't really get much better than this. In saying that, today we are making tracks towards Mount Whitney, which is the tallest mountain in the lower 48 states of the USA. It's a popular but very challenging side mission off the main route, and tomorrow we are planning to make the summit. Very much looking forward to that. This is day 44 of my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail.
Another spectacular morning on trail in the Sierra Nevada led us to our first of many high-altitude lakes in this section. Of course, we made the most of it, swimming in the icy waters and hanging out for a couple of hours. The afternoon walking brought us into our first national park on the PCT and my first ever US national park, which was pretty exciting. Bear canister requirements are in full effect here, and after making camp and having dinner, we made sure to properly store our food and distance our canisters. Tomorrow morning, we make our way to Mount Whitney Base Camp before attempting the summit. It's going to be a fun one. See you then.
If all goes to plan, 24 hours from now, I'll be standing at the summit of Mount Whitney, over 4,000 meters above sea level, the tallest mountain in the lower 48 states of the US. This morning is a pretty casual 10 or 12 miles to our launch point, and then we're going to get up very early tomorrow morning, close to midnight I think, to make our summit push. So it's going to be a pretty wild 24-hour period. I cannot wait. This is day 45 of my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail.
It was another stunning morning in the Sierra Nevada, filled with flowing streams, green meadows, and plenty of animals. We crossed rivers, ascended and descended a couple of mountains, and after 21 kilometers, made it to our campsite at the base of Mount Whitney.
We have made it to camp at about 2 p.m, which is quite early for us, but as you know, we are heading up Mount Whitney tonight. At about midnight, we're planning to get back up and summit, which is going to be wild. We've talked to a few other hikers here, have just come down from the summit. Apparently it's incredible. I cannot wait. For now, I'm going to get into the tent, get some food in, and get to bed nice and early and try and get as many hours of sleep in before midnight tonight. I'll see you then. It's safe to say this is the earliest we've gotten up so far on the PCT. It's just past midnight and we are heading up to summit Mount Whitney at over 4,500 meters above sea level, the highest mountain in the lower 48 states of the US. This is day 46 of my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail.
We started our ascent early to hopefully reach the summit of the iconic Mount Whitney for sunrise. The climb in the dark was tough, with snow, big drops, and lots of vertical gain. We reached the summit after about 4 hours, just as the sun was beginning to light the sky, and we watched it peek over the horizon. Many hikers had made the trek up this morning, but sharing this incredible moment with my trail family was pretty special. We soaked in the views as the Sierra Nevada began to illuminate, and of course I had to send a summit backie before we headed down. The descent back down was unreal. We didn't get to see much on the way up, so it was nice to see the epicness of the Whitney region in full light. After about 9 hours and 28 kilometers walked, we made it back to camp for a few hours rest. We still had 10 miles to walk this afternoon and we were all pretty tired, so it was honestly a bit of a slog. An alpine swim and a couple of tough river crossings certainly perked us up though, and we made camp a few miles away from our next challenge, the highest point on the PCT itself, Forester Pass. I'll see you tomorrow.
Good morning from the Pacific Crest Trail. This morning is very exciting actually. We are heading up Forester Pass, which is officially the highest point on the entire PCT. It's supposed to be pretty technical. It's supposed to be absolutely stunning. So it should be an interesting morning. And hopefully this afternoon we're going to head out of the Sierra Nevada into a town for a resupply. This is day 47 of my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail.
Another early start meant another incredible sunrise over the Sierra Nevada. After a couple of spectacular hours of hiking early in the day, we reached the base of Forester Pass.
We've just been crossing snowfields all morning to the most incredible sunrise. Now we've made it to the switchbacks up to Forester Pass. This is going to be fun.
The switchbacks to the top were surprisingly not too challenging, and every step was absolutely beautiful. We made it up to Forester Pass without any issues at all. The opposite side of the pass was a little more challenging, with tons of snowy trail to descend. Slipping would not end well for anyone, so we made sure to take our time and enjoy the process. Although at one point I did intentionally go for a bit of a slide. Dan and I spotted an icy lake that would be colder than anything we had ever swam in, so of course we went and had a dip. Once we got back into the valley, it was smooth walking, and we turned off the PCT onto Kearsarge Pass to make our exit into town. After crossing Kearsarge Pass, we made the long descent back to the car park where we hitched into the town of Bishop. We sorted out accommodation and had a massive dinner. Tomorrow we'll spend the day relaxing in town. See you soon.
This is day 49 of my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. We spent a lovely day off in the town of Bishop yesterday. And this morning we caught a bus and hitched our way back to trail. And now we're making the climb back up to Kearsarge Pass to get back on the PCT itself. Let's go.
After a quick permit check from a friendly ranger, we were back into the High Sierra, right where we left off 2 days ago. Kearsarge Pass was just as beautiful in reverse, and with some big mountains and high passes coming up in the next few days, it's only going to get more spectacular. We arrived back to the PCT after about 4 hours of hiking to set up camp and enjoy dinner to an epic sunset. Tomorrow morning we head up to Glen Pass, which is supposed to be pretty epic. See you then.
This is day 50. Day 50 of walking from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. Feels pretty surreal to be 50 days into this epic journey. Still nowhere near the end, but loving every day. We are currently on our way up to Glen Pass, which is the second of many high altitude passes here in the Sierra Nevada. This one's supposed to be one of the more sketchy ones, so we're going to take it slow, keep it safe, and get over the other side. Let's go.
The ascent up Glen Pass was tough, but actually easier than we expected, and the views at the top were incredible as always. The descent down the other side though was one of the more technical sections of trail we've had so far. There was a ton of snow and some steep rocky sections, but we made it down unscathed. The valley then took us down to Ray Lakes, which I think might be one of my favourite places on the PCT yet. It felt like we were literally walking through a movie set, and we ended up spending quite a bit of time relaxing here. The afternoon brought us past the 800-mile marker, across a big suspension bridge and alongside an epic river on our way up to another high pass.
So we are about halfway up our second pass for the day, Pinchot Pass, and the whole crew is definitely feeling it today, all very fatigued. I think it'll end up being our biggest elevation change day of the entire PCT. So yeah, it's a tough one, but we're hoping to make it over this pass before dark and then get to camp over the other side.
Pinchot was another snowy and stunning pass, although we didn't spend much time enjoying it as we were pretty excited to get to camp. We ended the day with almost a marathon walked and over 4,500 meters of elevation change. Big day in the office. See you tomorrow.
Good morning from the spectacular Sierra Nevada. This is day 51 of my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. Yesterday was a pretty tough day. We crossed 2 high altitude passes. Today should be a bit more relaxed. We're only crossing 1 high altitude pass, Mather Pass, and there's going to be river crossings and technical trail and other challenges, I'm sure, but that's what we've come to expect out here in the Sierra Nevada. I'm really looking forward to it. Let's go.
It was another beautiful morning on trail and another fun climb up to our daily pass. Mather Pass sits at just over 12,000 feet and, as with most, has some incredible views from the top.
That is Mather Pass complete. The descent was a little sketchy, mainly because there was no real track, but made it down with no problems. And now a lovely walk in the valley awaits. It is so beautiful.
We still had a long descent ahead of us, which sometimes can be just as tough on the legs as ascending. We saw some friendly marmots and found a great spot for lunch and our daily swim. The descent continued into the afternoon, and I ended up getting quite a bit ahead of my trail family, so walked alone in paradise until just before sunset.
I've made it to camp all alone after almost a marathon walked. The rest of the group are a bit further back, not exactly sure where, but I'm sure I'll see them tomorrow. In the morning, I've got a big climb up to the iconic Muir Pass, which I'm very much looking forward to. I'll see you then. Waking up to this every single morning does not feel like real life. I'm walking past this river, water falling down a valley. There's snow-capped mountains surrounding me, the sun hitting their peaks. I've walked past a handful of deer already in the first mile this morning. My mind is blown here in the Sierra Nevada. This is day 52 of my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail.
I headed off early and alone this morning on my way to the iconic Muir Pass. I had heard that Muir Pass had a lot of snow but wasn't too technical, so I was looking forward to the climb.
This is by far the snowiest section of trail we've been on, but I'm almost at the pass now and it is so beautiful out here. I've made it up to Muir Pass, Muir Hut behind me, incredible views on both sides of the pass as you'd expect. Just unbelievable. So much snow up here, which is really cool.
After enjoying the pass for a little while, I began the long, wide ascent into the valley. I came across a literal frozen lake, and despite Dan not being around for our daily swim, I broke the ice and jumped in alone. Eventually, I left the snow behind and approached the next challenge on trail.
So I'm just coming up on what is considered to be one of the more dangerous river crossings on the PCT on the San Joaquin River. There used to be a bridge at this crossing, but it washed away last year, I believe. I'm gonna actually try and cross. Fingers crossed it works out.
I was lucky enough to be joined by an Australian couple for the crossing, and after 20 minutes of searching for the safest place to cross, we made it without too many issues. I made it to camp after another marathon walked and settled in for another big day tomorrow. I'll see you then.
I have officially walked over 1,000 miles so far on this trek, which is ridiculous. And with all the plans I have ahead, I've probably got about 2,000 miles left to go. This is day 53 of my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail.
I had heard good things about a Sierra mountain resort that was just off trail about 27 miles away from my starting position today. Seeing as I'm hiking alone at the moment, I decided to get up early and push for a big day to get there. It wouldn't be a walk in the park though, as I had a high altitude pass to cross towards the beginning of the day.
I made it up to Selden Pass, all by myself up here. That was by far the easiest pass that I've climbed so far in the Sierra Nevada, but just as beautiful as all of them. And now a long descent to my finishing point for the day.
After briefly enjoying the views, I made my way down towards the valley where my turnoff awaited.
I'm about 20 miles into day 53 and I've just made a turn off the PCT. There's apparently a mountain resort about 6 miles off trail called Vermilion Valley Resort. And by the time I walk in there, I would have walked about a marathon. So I think it's the perfect place to spend the night. Looking forward to it.
The side trail had some incredible views and I eventually made it to a road where a kind stranger took me into Vermilion Valley Resort. I set up my tent amongst a bunch of other PCT hikers and enjoyed the good hospitality and good vibes at VVR. I'll see you tomorrow.
This is day 54 of my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. I stayed at Vermilion Valley Resort in the Sierra Nevada last night. And instead of walking the 7 miles back to trail, I took the ferry across the lake, which was really nice. But I'm back on the PCT now, about to head up for another big high altitude pass towards the town of Mammoth, which we should hit tomorrow. Exciting times. Let's get to it.
After a lovely night off trail, I was ready to hit the ground running this morning with the goal of walking well over a marathon. I managed to reconnect with my trail family after not seeing them for a few days, and we enjoyed our usual antics throughout the morning. We crossed the spectacular Silver Pass without too much issue, but the valley on the other side was infested with thousands of mosquitoes, which made it a little miserable. The trail was amazing regardless, as it usually is, and after a brief dinner break with friends and bugs alike, a few of us headed on into the night. The sunset was incredible, which helped distract me from tired legs, and soon I was walking in the dead of night.
So I've just crossed over the marathon mark for the day, and I'm only a few miles away from the turnoff into the town of Mammoth Lakes, which I'll take tomorrow morning. But yeah, it's getting pretty late as you can tell, so keen to get to bed very soon.
Tomorrow we head into town for rest and resupply. See you then.
This is day 55 of my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. Today's very exciting, as always, because it is town day. We are heading into the town of Mammoth Lakes for some rest, for some resupply. It's been an incredible week in the Sierra Nevada, but we'll head off today. And then tomorrow, I think we're back into the mountains towards Yosemite National Park. Let's go.
It was only a short 2-hour walk off the PCT this morning, and we made it to a mountain resort, Red Meadow, just in time for breakfast. Good company and good food was a great reward after a long week in the backcountry, and the rest of the gang eventually made it in to join us. We took a bus from Red Meadow into the famous town of Mammoth Lakes and enjoyed some more calories in the town centre. That afternoon we checked into our Airbnb, did some town day chores, and settled in with pizza for the night. I'm looking forward to spending some more time in Mammoth Lakes tomorrow. I'll see you then.
This is day 57 of my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. We had a brilliant 0 day in the town of Mammoth yesterday. Rest, resupply, a couple of the trail fam were dealing with some injuries, but most of us are back onto the PCT today and over the next few days heading in to Yosemite National Park. I cannot wait.
After a bus ride from Mammoth Lakes, we returned to the PCT via a new route, eventually returning to Red Meadow Resort, where we left the trail 2 days ago. We then took a side trail to Devil's Postpile National Monument, which was pretty cool. This section continues to be absolutely infested with mosquitoes, but not everything on trail always goes to plan. That includes this once intact bridge crossing, which Dan and I decided to head over anyway, which was a little sketchy. We battled the mosquitoes into the late afternoon before finding a place to set up camp and escape the bugs.
Made it to camp. I've never attempted to set up my tent so fast. The mosquitoes are disgusting. I didn't choose a very good tent spot and it took a lot longer than expected, so I've been bitten about 1,000 times, but I'm ready for bed. The sun has set. Big day on trail tomorrow. I'll see you then. I am walking into Yosemite National Park today. It's been high on my bucket list for a very long time, and I am very lucky that the Pacific Crest Trail walks straight through the national park. Tomorrow I'm going to head down into the valley and hopefully see as many of the sights and sounds that make Yosemite so iconic. This is day 58 of my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail.
It was a beautiful early start to the morning as we climbed our way up towards Donahue Pass. This morning honestly had some of the most picturesque views of the entire PCT, and we made it up to the high pass without any issues at all. Yosemite National Park officially began on the other side of the pass, and despite no tourists visiting this section of the park, it was absolutely spectacular. I've been wanting to visit Yosemite for a very long time, so to be camping here while hiking the PCT felt pretty special.
I am all set up at camp here in Yosemite National Park. Feels really, really cool to be in this iconic national park. And tomorrow I'm going to be hiking into Yosemite Valley. It's about a 27 mile walk to get in, and I can't wait to see everything along the way and then experience the valley itself. It's going to be pretty amazing. I'll see you then. Welcome to Yosemite National Park. Feels very good to be here. Instead of hitching into Yosemite Valley today, Dan and I have decided to walk the 27 miles from the PCT into the valley to hopefully see as much of the park as possible while we're here. It should be a pretty incredible day. The sunrise this morning has already been unreal. This is day 59 of my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail.
Dan and I woke up at 4 a.m. this morning and left the PCT for our biggest side mission so far. I've been dreaming of visiting Yosemite National Park for years, so I'm determined to see as much of it as possible now that I'm finally here. It was a morning filled with flowing water and picturesque landscapes as we descended into Yosemite Valley. We took a natural shower in one particularly appetizing waterfall and eventually made it down to some of the more iconic falls that Yosemite is known for. First up was the gigantic Nevada Falls, which from the top was absolutely mind-blowing. Next up we reached Vernal Falls, which was equally impressive, and the trail here was absolutely beautiful. Finally, after almost 50 kilometers walked, we made it into Yosemite Valley and headed straight for food. The rest of the trail family had hitched into the valley earlier today and had somehow secured us half-dome permits for tomorrow morning. So we all headed up the trail that Dan and I had just come down to make camp. It was cool seeing the waterfalls again without tourists and in a new light, and we finally made it to camp after a massive day on trail.
We made it to camp after 56 kilometers of hiking from the PCT all the way down to Yosemite Valley and then back up here to Half Dome Base Camp. And tomorrow morning we will summit Half Dome for sunrise. I cannot wait. See you then. We are in Yosemite National Park. We are up bright and early to climb Half Dome. It's going to be an epic day, an epic morning. This is day 60 of my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail.
A very early start and a very steep climb brought us to the iconic base of Half Dome in Yosemite National Park. This is where the hike gets serious, as we must ascend almost vertical rock with only these cables and poles to hold onto. There are no other safety mechanisms in place. You're not strapped in any way. If you fall, it's a long way down. The sun rose as we reached the summit of Half Dome, and it was a pretty spectacular viewpoint of this incredible national park. We spent quite a bit of time at the top before making the descent, which seemed a lot sketchier than the way up. We had some food back at camp before descending all the way back into Yosemite Valley, where we'll enjoy some downtime this afternoon. We had a massive lunch, spent some time by the pool, and prepped a big family dinner for our last night in Yosemite. I'll definitely miss this place, but I'm super glad that I made the effort to come in. We're back to the PCT tomorrow. See you then.
This is day 61 of my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. And while I'm technically still in Yosemite National Park, We did hitchhike out of Yosemite Valley this morning. Sadly, thank you so much to Heather for the ride. And we're back on the PCT now. We'll spend the next 4 days or so in the backcountry, which I'm very much looking forward to, as much as I'm gonna miss the beautiful Yosemite National Park. Let's get to it.
The beauty of Yosemite continued as we headed north back on the PCT. Tuolumne Falls was absolutely stunning and perfect for Dan and I's daily dip. Despite the mosquitoes being pretty bad amongst all of this water, the trail continued to be super enjoyable throughout the day. We're unfortunately in the process of walking out of the High Sierra, and in about a week's time we'll reach Section 3 of the Pacific Crest Trail, Northern California. For now, we're just enjoying the mountains while we still can, and we managed to get a solid day's walk in today. We'll be back at it tomorrow for some big miles. See you then.
Good morning on day 62 of my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. Today's a pretty big one. We're crossing 2 high altitude passes, 2 of the last high passes in the Sierra Nevada, heading to lower altitudes very soon in Northern California. So we're gonna make the most of it today, swim in a couple of lakes, enjoy the views. It's gonna be a good one. Let's go.
After over 60 days on the Pacific Crest Trail, we are feeling fitter than ever, and big days on trail are becoming easier and easier. It also helps that we're in the heart of summer at the moment and days are super long. All that means is we're able to take plenty of breaks and really enjoy the trail while still walking about a marathon each day.
So I'm taking a little detour off trail. There's about a mile walk off to Benson Lake, and jumping in the water for the second time today sounds amazing. So that's the plan currently.
I've been absolutely loving our daily swims. For me, it's the perfect way to really immerse myself in the environment. I ended up dipping in 3 separate lakes today, as well as crossing 2 high passes and walking almost a marathon. We ended up making it to camp just before dark and shared the space with some friendly deer. We're back out tomorrow for another big one. See you then.
We woke up to about 1,000 mosquitoes outside our tents this morning, which was pretty crappy, but we take the lows with the highs out here. And it is absolutely beautiful at the moment out in these remote mountains in the Sierra Nevada, so we can't really complain. We've got a pretty big day on the cards today though, so looking forward to putting some miles in. This is day 63 of my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail.
While the trail this morning was stunning and we passed by many pristine lakes, the mosquitoes were extremely frustrating. I put my head net on early, which protected my face, but because I don't like rubbing DEET on my skin, my legs were attacked without mercy, no matter how fast I walked. The group walked about 15 miles without stopping this morning, but eventually we needed a break, which we took at this stunning lake.
We've made it to a beautiful spot to have some lunch by the lake, but there's also about 1 million mosquitoes here, so we're trying to cover every inch of skin, and it's a bit hard to enjoy the beauty, but we're gonna eat and keep trotting.
Our daily swim subdued the mosquitoes briefly, but they followed us as we returned to the trail. We crossed a high pass and the 1,000-mile marker before ascending up a big alpine ridge where we planned to camp for the night. While the wind at the top meant no tents, it also meant no mosquitoes, and we enjoyed our most scenic cowboy camp to date. We fell asleep as the vivid sunset transitioned to a sky full of stars. See you tomorrow.
This is day 64 of my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. We cowboy camped on top of this mountain last night, which is very exposed, very windy. Didn't get a whole lot of sleep, but incredible views to wake up to. And we're excited because we've only got about 8 miles to walk in to our next resupply point this morning. Let's do it.
It was a beautiful morning of alpine trail as we descended off the ridge down to Sonora Pass. It was only a couple hours of walking, but we were all very happy to make it to the road where we hitchhiked into Kennedy Meadows Resort. We're only taking a half day off here, so we made sure to complete all our town chores early. We ate a lot of food and spent some time with a fresh litter of puppies at the resort before returning to the trail the next morning for day 65 on the PCT. There's a Northern Californian heat wave brewing, and we noticed a stark rise in temperatures today. With the High Sierra behind us, water is becoming more scarce, so we're making the most of it when the opportunity arises. We only walked about a marathon over the last 2 days, but tomorrow is the 4th of July, so I think we'll celebrate with some big miles. See you then.
Good morning on day 66 of my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. Today is the 4th of July, which Leah and Emma, who are the Americans in our group, tell me is quite an important day. Regardless, we are going to be walking all day today, as usual, and hoping to get in some pretty big miles. Let's do it.
As someone who's a bit of an introvert and doesn't love crowds, I was pretty happy to be on trail this morning instead of a big city or town on the 4th of July.
So I get a lot of questions regarding how often the trail family hikes together versus hiking apart while we're on trail each day. And in reality, most of our hiking is done apart. We tend to group up at lunch and at camp and hang out together, but each of us have different paces. Each of us have to stop for different reasons throughout the day. So most of the time we're hiking alone, and it kind of works well like that. No one's waiting on anyone else. We usually have a designated campsite at night that we meet up at. So yeah, that's how we do it.
I did meet up with some of the crew for lunch and our daily swim, and were even treated to some trail magic at a highway crossing. The fact that someone would give up their 4th of July to spoil hikers is pretty amazing, and it fueled us into the afternoon. We ended up pushing for well over a marathon today and found an incredible spot to camp. There weren't any fireworks out here, but we still had a beautiful view for dinner. See you tomorrow.
Good morning on day 67 of my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. Planning a marathon or more on trail today as we inch ourselves closer to South Lake Tahoe. We have left the High Sierra, which is a little sad, but there's a whole new type of beauty in this section of trail. Let's get to it.
Lake Tahoe is one of those spots that every PCT thru hiker looks forward to, and being so close to this iconic destination had our whole group pretty excited.
I just took a 1 mile detour off the PCT up to this little peak called the Nipple. Pretty incredible 360 views, pretty spectacular.
As you guys know, I've been walking side routes off the Pacific Crest Trail every chance I get. My biggest side quest so far is coming up at Lake Tahoe. I'm planning to walk the entire Tahoe Rim Trail. It's a 170-mile loop around the lake, 50 of which is shared with the PCT. It's always pretty obvious when we start getting close to population centres like Lake Tahoe. Day hikers start filling the trail, and we're often treated with trail magic. An afternoon swim and another stunning campsite capped off an incredible day on trail, and tomorrow we head into town. See you then.
Good morning on day 68 of my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. I haven't been in a proper town for almost 2 weeks now, so this morning's very exciting. I'm walking into the town of South Lake Tahoe, which is a fairly large and iconic town here on the PCT. We're going to resupply, spend some time recovering, and all the usual town day stuff.
With less than 10 miles to walk into town, we didn't waste any time this morning. We're planning on spending today and tomorrow in South Lake Tahoe before heading out onto the Tahoe Rim Trail. We arrived at Echo Lake after a couple hours of walking, where we hitched a ride into town. As always, we headed straight for food, and then I did some town chores, including visiting the post office and supermarket. We were blessed to be offered a place to stay in town by a lovely local couple, Ed and Allison, and we enjoyed good food and chats that night. I opened the packages I picked up at the post office earlier today, and I'm super excited to have a brand new backpack from 0G Gear for the second half of the hike. Columbia also sent over some new clothes, which were much needed. We would spend the entire next day, day 69, completely off the trail. We had a relaxing morning at the house before heading out to visit a local church. Mountain House Church put on an epic feast after the service, which we took full advantage of before heading out to explore the town. South Lake Tahoe is pretty cool, and half the town is in Nevada, so I technically got to visit another state today. We had an awesome family dinner and headed back to the house to clean up. Tomorrow we are heading back to trail, and I cannot wait. See you then.
Good morning on day 70 of my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. I feel like a new man coming out of South Lake Tahoe. New clothes, new shoes. I got a new backpack thanks to 0G Gear. And we've headed back to Echo Lake, where we left the PCT 2 days ago, and we are officially heading into a new section, Section 3 of the PCT, Northern California. Before we get too far though, Dan and I are going to be attempting our biggest side mission yet.
Before heading back today, Dan and I picked up 2 permits for the Tahoe Rim Trail. TRT is about 170 miles long and completes a full loop around the ginormous Lake Tahoe. Roughly 50 miles of the Tahoe Rim Trail is shared with the Pacific Crest Trail, so Dan and I will spend the next day or so with the trail family before splitting off. We'll walk over 100 extra miles off the PCT, but from what we've heard, it's well worth it. Today was an incredible start to this section, walking through desolation wilderness. There were lakes everywhere, which of course we took full advantage of, and the views throughout were spectacular. As the sun began to set though, the mosquitoes came to say hello.
We are all of a sudden, as the sun's going down, dealing with some of the worst mosquitoes we've had so far on the PCT. Gets worse, having to stop to fill up water before camp, but we're almost there. and I'm gonna get into my tent and hide away for the night.
We managed to find an epic campsite just before it got dark and hid away in our tents. Tomorrow should be pretty amazing. See you then.
Good morning on day 71 of my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. Today is a very exciting day, but also it's going to be a little sad. Dan and I are splitting off onto the Tahoe Rim Trail while the rest of the trail family are continuing north onto the PCT. Most likely we're going to be apart from each other for quite some time, which is going to suck, but I am very excited to see the beauty of the Tahoe Rim Trail. Let's get to it. It was a stunning morning on trail as we continued walking through Desolation Wilderness. We had our first real views of Lake Tahoe and the landscapes were incredible. Eventually though, we made it to the junction where the Tahoe Rim Trail leaves the PCT. Dan and I said our final goodbyes to the trail family, who we'll likely not see for a couple weeks at least. We slowly descended towards Lake Tahoe and passed through Tahoe City, where we had dinner and resupplied to hopefully get us to the end of the TRT. We had already walked over a marathon at this point, but decided to keep pushing on towards sunset. We eventually found a spot to camp after 33 miles for the day. I can't wait for tomorrow. See you then. Good morning on day 72 of my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. As you guys know, Dan and I have left the PCT for our biggest side mission yet, the Tahoe Rim Trail. We're planning some big miles today, and I've heard that this section we're about to walk is absolutely spectacular, so looking forward to it. We spent the morning ascending through dense forest without so much as a glimpse of Lake Tahoe. All of a sudden though, the mountain opened up and we had one of the best views of the PCT thus far. We'll continue getting views just like this, but from every angle as we make our way around the lake. The Tahoe Rim Trail is not only known for its great views, but also its long water carries. This lake would be our last water source for over 18 miles on trail today. It's definitely tough walking out here and it's been brutally hot all week, but we made good progress throughout today. We're about a marathon into the day so far, and we are just crossing into a new state. That way is Nevada, that's the state line, and that's California, where we came from. Pretty cool. Gonna try and hit at least another 10 kilometers today, but new state, baby. We continued climbing throughout the afternoon and the views just somehow kept getting better. As the sun was setting, we finally found a water source and filled up just before getting to camp. It was another epic day on trail today, and I'm looking forward to repeating it again tomorrow. See you then. Good morning on day 73 of my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. And yes, we're not technically on the Pacific Crest Trail. Dan and I are currently on the Tahoe Rim Trail, which has been a worthy side mission off the PCT. Planning another 50 plus kilometers, lots of time on trail, but it's so beautiful out here that, you know, it's easy to be distracted from the pain we're in with all these miles. Let's get to it. We started the morning with a big climb up to the high point of the Tahoe Rim Trail. Relay Peak sits at over 10,000 feet and has some pretty epic views of its surroundings. We passed a beautiful waterfall on the way down to Mount Rose Highway, where Millie, a local, was waiting for us with some magic. So we've just crossed Mount Rose Highway. Got to give a massive shout out to Millie, who's a local here around Lake Tahoe. She came out and delivered us coffee and food this morning. She also took some of the weight out of our packs, so Dan and I are going to be doing a bit of slack packing today, and we'll meet up with Millie later today, which is going to be very nice. We'll be able to move quickly and cover some big miles. We had some big water carries this afternoon, so having a lighter pack was much appreciated. The views opened up as we began to climb again, and after 50 kilometers of walking today, we made it to another highway where Millie was waiting with pizza. We repacked our gear and made the most of the little light we had left to finish with one of our longest days on trail today. Tomorrow will be our last day on the Tahoe Rim Trail. See you then. Good morning on day 74 of my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. We have been walking the Tahoe Rim Trail off the PCT for the last few days, and today it is coming to an end. It is our last day on the TRT, and tomorrow we're heading back to the PCT. It's a little sad. This trail has been absolutely incredible. I'm sure today is going to be epic, but I am looking forward to getting back onto the Pacific Crest Trail and heading north. Tahoe Rim Trail has been a spectacular side mission, and this morning really affirmed our choice to walk so many extra miles off the PCT. We walked a half marathon and had some great views of the lake before descending down to a road where we caught a ride into South Lake Tahoe. We have made it back to South Lake Tahoe, and we've got all afternoon to knock out a bunch of chores, get some shopping done, have a shower, and then we're going to head back to the PCT tomorrow morning.
A week ago, we spent 2 nights in South Lake Tahoe with a lovely couple of locals, Ed and Allison. They very graciously offered to host Dan and I once again, and after prepping to get back on trail tomorrow, Ed and Allison took us out for dinner by the lake. The generosity of Tahoe locals have made this one of the best legs of our journey so far, and tomorrow we're back on course to Canada. See you then.
We have just finished the Tahoe Rim Trail as our biggest side quest off the Pacific Crest Trail to date. We ended up staying in South Lake Tahoe last night with a lovely couple, Ed and Allison. Ed drove us back to trail this morning. Massive thanks to those guys. And we are officially back on the PCT today, heading north into Northern California, which is section 3 of the trail, which is super exciting. This is day 75 of my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail.
It's really exciting to be back on course. It's a long way to Canada still, and with wildfire season in full swing, it's becoming increasingly more important to get as many northbound miles in as possible. Dark clouds covered the sky this morning, which was a welcome sight after some pretty hot weather in recent days. We haven't seen rain on the PCT since week 1, so despite not carrying much weather gear, I was quietly hoping for a bit of a shower.
It is raining on the Pacific Crest Trail. That is pretty much the first time that has happened thus far.
We had been walking through ski resorts all day, and much to our surprise, as we passed by Donna's ski ranch, it was open for dinner, so of course we stopped in. The dark clouds outside turned into a pretty hectic thunderstorm, and we ended up waiting out the worst of it inside before heading out for some night miles. We ended up walking just over a marathon today, which is actually kind of a short day considering the amount of miles we've been putting in recently. We're planning a massive day tomorrow. See you then.
It is a gloomy morning on day 76 of my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. We're actually really enjoying this overcast weather, as long as we can dodge the rain and the lightning. But we're out on trail for another big one today, heading towards Sierra City.
Dan and I are planning to continue walking a minimum of 30 miles per day in an attempt to catch up to the trail family who are quite far ahead of us. We're treating it as a bit of a game, to be honest, and it's a good test to see where my trail legs and fitness is at.
So we've been messaging back and forth with the trail family over the last day or two. Obviously, Dan and I separated from the rest of the gang when we went off to do the Tahoe Rim Trail, so they've got about 3 days on us. Turns out they're about 80 miles ahead, so we are currently in catch-up mode and hoping to reunite with the rest of the crew, within a fortnight or so. It really depends how fast they go and then how fast we can go as well.
I'm really happy with how the legs are responding to the increased mileage, and after about a marathon today, Dan and I decided to take a little side route off the trail to this beautiful reservoir. A quick swim and a lengthy dinner on the dock gave us the boost we needed to walk into the night once more. I've been really enjoying these later finishes. Being able to watch the entire sunset while still walking is pretty special. Not to mention the possibility of a mountain lion stalking you in the dark definitely keeps the legs moving. We found a cool spot to set up in the dark, and tomorrow morning we're heading into the town of Sierra City for resupply. See you then.
As of today, I have been walking all day, every day for 11 weeks straight. This is my 77th day in a row hiking across America on the Pacific Crest Trail. I'm feeling fit, I'm feeling strong, and today's going to be another big day on the PCT.
We walked some stunning trail and crossed a slightly sketchy bridge on our way down to the small town of Sierra City this morning. We did a quick resupply and hung out with some other through hikers while having a big breakfast.
So we just spent a couple hours in Sierra City, quick stop off, and now we are back on trail, starting a 3,500 foot climb up this big mountain out of town. The clouds are gone today, so we're about to get very sweaty.
While we are out of the High Sierra, there are still plenty of big climbs here in Northern California. This one was particularly brutal in the heat, but an incredible trail angel had kited out 2 eskies at the top of the climb for through hikers. We walked through some stunning forests and past some epic lakes in the afternoon before finding an epic viewpoint to have dinner. We've been eating dinner on trail instead of at camp lately because we're tending to walk later into the night. We made it to camp after a solid 50 kilometers on trail today. We'll be back at it again tomorrow. See you then.
This is my 78th day walking all day, every day across America on the Pacific Crest Trail. And I thought I'd give you guys a little trail life update today. How am I going? Where's my head at? What is the plan moving forward? Has been a while since we've properly chatted. let's get into it. All right, it's been a beautiful morning of hiking so far. Walked about 16 miles up until this point. Planning to hit at least 30 today. Dan and I have been really pushing over the last week. For those who have been following along with the daily vlogs, you'll know that we left the trail, we left the PCT for a big side quest on the Tahoe Rim Trail. That was about a week ago. And because we left the trail, we also left the rest of our trail family. And since we've been back on the PCT, we've just been pushing really hard, doing big miles and really just testing the bodies, trying to catch up with the rest of the crew. We've been on trail for over 2.5 months now, which is wild. And the body has become really strong over that time. I haven't had any injuries. So this last week has been a really good test to just see where the fitness is at. We covered over 200 miles in a 7-day period last week. So pretty damn happy with that. And the body honestly feels really good. I'm tired for sure, sacrificed a bit of sleep, and there's been some late finishes on trail, as you guys would have seen. So am I still enjoying myself? Where's my head at? I can honestly say that I am still having an incredible time on the PCT, loving every day. I absolutely love pushing myself, and so this new challenge in Northern California of doing bigger miles and just seeing what the body's capable of is really fulfilling to me. I'd be lying if I said I haven't started to really miss home a lot more the last couple of weeks. I mean, I've been away for a long time. My wife, my family, my friends, definitely struggling a bit in that regard, but overall I'm super stoked to be here, and I'm gonna keep pushing all the way to Canada. All right, we've just crossed the marathon mark for the day, so moving pretty well, still got a while to go. And as I mentioned earlier, we are hiking in Northern California at the moment, which is section 3 of 5 on the PCT. It's actually the longest section on the PCT as well. But as you can already see around me, Northern California is known for having a lot of burnt trail, wildfires, especially during summer, which is when we're hiking, pretty common out here. There are also a bunch of fires currently burning on trail, and so we are going to be forced to skip or detour around a few bits and pieces just because it's too dangerous, and firefighters are actively fighting wildfires. In saying that, there is a lot to look forward to in Northern California as well. For starters, we're only about 100 miles away from the official halfway mark of the PCT, which will be a huge milestone, and we shouldn't be too far away from catching up to the trail family as well, which is really exciting. After we finish NorCal, we'll be walking through the state of Oregon and then finally the state of Washington. So while the end is not quite in sight yet, it is pretty cool to see how far we've actually come. All right, I've just made it to camp. We walked almost 34 miles today, so another big day on trail. Before I let you guys go, I just want to say a massive thank you to everyone who's following along on the journey. Particularly thank you to my Patreon members, my Instagram subscribers. You guys are making this possible. And yeah, this is a long video, but I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you tomorrow. Good morning on day 79 of my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. I think I had my best sleep in probably a couple of weeks last night, which is very helpful because we were about to climb up a 1,000-meter mountain this morning straight out of camp. We're hoping to pop into a little lake resort called Bucks Lake this morning to resupply, so that should be something to look forward to at least.
The elevation change in Northern California has been tougher than expected, but I think most of it is due to the extreme heat. We've experienced multiple heat waves this summer on trail, where days like today can reach over 100 degrees Fahrenheit in temperature.
We've just completed the mother of all hills. We've made it to the road down to Bucks Lake. It got really hot really early this morning, so brutal climb, but hopefully we'll be able to get some food in town and then keep heading north.
Unfortunately, we couldn't catch a hitch and the road walk absolutely sucked, but we were eventually greeted by a friendly store owner and had our fair share of calories. It's always nice to indulge a little bit on our brief visits into town, and we even had a swim in Bucks Lake before luckily catching a hitch back to trail. We had another big climb this afternoon, luckily this time with a bit more shade, and eventually found an incredible spot to set up camp. We covered some good ground today despite the challenges, and tomorrow we've got a bit of a surprise. I cannot wait. See you then. This is day 80 and 81 of my walk across America on the Pacific Crest Trail. We only had to walk about 14 miles this morning to the small town of Belden, where we're planning to head off trail for a night. Dan and I have been attempting to catch up to our trail family for about a week now, and while we're still 50 miles behind, Leah, who's part of our group, is leaving the trail for a while, so we wanted to meet up to say goodbye. I didn't film too much in town, but we had an awesome time hanging out. We celebrated Lisa's birthday and said our goodbyes to Leah.
We've just had a very brief but very nice day off trail in the small town of Susanville with the rest of the trail family. As you guys saw, we are able to reunite just for a night. Leah, who we've been walking with for the last couple months, is actually leaving the PCT at least for a little while, so we all got together to say goodbye. Dan and I are now back at Belden where we left off yesterday, and back heading north. So got a big hill to climb this morning. It's already very hot, but let's get it done.
Starting hiking at midday during a heat wave probably isn't the best idea, especially with a massive mountain to climb, but luckily there were plenty of streams on trail today. We made it over the mountain without too much issue and ended up walking through old wildfire burn zones for the rest of the afternoon. It was great to see the trail family and have a bit of time off trail over the last 2 days, but I'm ready for some big miles tomorrow. See you then.
Today we are reaching the halfway point of the Pacific Crest Trail after almost 3 months of walking. It's a pretty exciting one, a huge milestone obviously, but that means we've got it all to do again. This is day 82 of my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail.
It was a beautiful morning of hiking despite continuing to walk through a lot of burnt trail. There were still some patches of life amongst the desolation, and we were pretty damn excited to reach the massive milestone of halfway.
We have officially made it to the halfway point of the Pacific Crest Trail. This is the halfway marker. 1,325 miles done, 1,325 miles to go. Feels pretty good, but it's kind of crazy that we've been walking for this long and we've only just hit halfway. Still, exciting times. We'll keep heading north.
We were feeling good and more motivated than ever after passing halfway, and Dan and I decided that we would try and walk our longest day so far on the PCT. Our bodies continued to adapt to the big miles we're throwing at them, so after a quick dinner break this afternoon, we grabbed our headlamps and walked on into the night, expecting to finish pretty late. It was a tough last few hours on trail, but we pushed on to walk almost 40 miles, well over 60 kilometers for the day, and found a pretty cool spot to camp. Hopefully I sleep well tonight. See you tomorrow.
We walked almost 40 miles on trail yesterday, so the legs are feeling it this morning, but it's a pretty exciting day. We're about to walk through our 4th national park on the PCT, Lassen Volcanic National Park. So it should be a fun day of exploring. This is day 83 of my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail.
While Lassen Volcanic National Park wasn't quite as highly anticipated as a national park like Yosemite, I was still very much looking forward to walking through today. Almost immediately after entering the national park, I took a short detour off the PCT to see Terminal Geyser. It was a pretty cool spot. I haven't really seen anything like this before. We walked past a couple of other cool spots in the national park, including this sulfuric lake and a couple of other normal lakes, one of which we took a swim at. Despite walking our longest day on the PCT yesterday, we were keen to push for another big one today. We're planning to camp at the small town of Old Station tonight. It was another late finish tonight, and despite making it to Old Station after the store had closed, we were still able to nab a cold soda from the vending machine out front. That's another 34 miles in the books and almost 75 miles over the last 2 days. See you tomorrow.
Good morning on day 84 of my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. We camped here last night in the small town of Old Station. The gas station is just opening up, so we're going to do a quick resupply, then head back on trail for another big day.
There were about 20 other thru hikers camping behind the gas station last night, and we were all waiting for it to open up this morning. After resupplying, we made a small detour off the PCT to visit this old lava tube called the Subway Cave. It was super interesting to walk through, and yet another highlight here in Northern California. Despite a great start to the day, we're still amidst a pretty hectic heatwave at the moment, with some big miles walked over the last couple of days. We knew today would be a bit of a slog.
It is about 100 degrees Fahrenheit out here, which is I think about 38 degrees Celsius. Brutally hot, brutally dry. There has not been much water on trail at all today, so we're having to do massive water carries. There's smoke in the air from all the wildfires that are around. I didn't get much sleep last night or any of the nights in the last week or so. So overall, I guess what I'm trying to say is it's a tough day today. Definitely struggling a bit, but hey, that's what we're out here for. If it was easy, then everyone would do it. It was definitely a slower day than usual with plenty of tough moments, but I'm still enjoying every second out here. I actually relish the hard days. It's where I feel I grow the most on trail, and it makes progress north towards Canada all the more satisfying. I'll see you tomorrow. Good morning from the Pacific Crest Trail. This is day 85 walking across America, and not gonna lie, I'm feeling a little fatigued, a little groggy this morning. The last few days have been massive, been putting in some big miles and not getting enough sleep, which is something I really need to work on.
Despite our tiredness, it was a super exciting morning. We'd be passing by the town of Boerne and the iconic Boerne Falls. It was one of the most beautiful waterfalls I've ever seen, but unfortunately we couldn't get down to the base for a swim due to trail construction. Regardless, we enjoyed the view from the lookout for a good while before catching a ride into the town of Boerne. We quickly resupplied before heading back to Boerne Falls campground, where Jennifer, who gave us a ride in and out of town, invited us back to her family's campsite. We were really spoiled by Jennifer and her family. Thanks again, guys, but we soon headed back to trail. It was another absolutely scorching afternoon on trail, but luckily we found a pretty cool stream to cool off in. We actually ended up relaxing here for a couple of hours, and on top of the few hours we spent at Boerne Falls, we didn't end up having enough time to hit the miles planned for today. We weren't too fussed about that though. It was an awesome day on trail, and we ended up finding a pretty cool spot to cowboy camp for the night. We'll hopefully be back to some bigger miles tomorrow. See you then.
What does my diet look like walking over 30 miles a day on the Pacific Crest Trail? Well, today is day 86 of my walk across America. I'm going to show you everything I eat in a day on trail.
I usually pack up and get moving pretty quickly after waking, so my first calories of the day are during my first couple miles of hiking. I had an apple and a muesli bar during the first couple hours of the day before stopping for breakfast. My go-to breakfast lately has been some type of cereal or granola, and to that I'll add protein powder, creatine, dried fruits and honey. I'll always take 2 multivitamins in the mornings, of which I've formulated myself, and usually a coffee as well. I'll have another snack or two. I've been really enjoying Doritos lately before digging into a big lunch in the early afternoon. A tortilla with beef jerky, ketchup and mustard really hits the spot, followed by another with pure honey. Another bar or two during the afternoon will get me through to dinner time, which is where I really feast. My go-to is 2 packets of ramen with peanut butter, an avocado and more beef jerky. A few handfuls of candy caps off a good day of eating, and I'll take a couple more of my multivitamins before heading to bed for the night. I walked 32 miles today and loved every second. I'll see you tomorrow.
This is day 87 of my walk across America on the Pacific Crest Trail. Dan and I have been absolutely hammering the miles recently. Our legs are tired, our bodies are tired, everything's tired, but we are hitting our next town tomorrow morning. So one more big day today, and then we should be able to get a bit of rest. I'm pretty excited to walk into the town of Mount Shasta tomorrow. I definitely need some rest, and I'm in desperate need of some new shoes. It was a stunning morning on trail with plenty of deer around, one of which was following me on trail for quite a while. It wasn't too technical or steep today, so we were able to put in some pretty fast miles. We are making very good time today in the heat. We've done over 20 miles and it's mid-afternoon, so plenty of time left in the day. Dan and I have taken on the challenge of no zero NorCal, which means we are planning to not take a single day off in this entire section. We will take a half day off tomorrow though, and tell you what, we definitely need the rest and the sleep, so I'm looking forward to it. With the heat increasing throughout the day, we took our opportunity for a swim whenever we could, and we got some pretty epic views of the magical Mount Shasta. We ended up finding a pretty epic campsite to set up at for the night, and we can't wait to get into town tomorrow. See you then. This is my 90th day walking all day, every day across America on the Pacific Crest Trail. There are currently a lot of wildfires impacting the west coast of America and impacting our walk on the PCT. And I've been getting a lot of questions regarding safety in these wildfires and how we're navigating around them. So in today's video, I thought I'd answer those questions and talk a bit about it. Now, before you ask, yes, I got a haircut. We've been hanging out in the small town of Mount Shasta over the last 2 days, and I thought it was finally time to get it all shaved off, drop a couple pounds, and I feel a lot better for it. Although it's probably going to take a while to get used to having a lot less hair, that's for sure. So regarding wildfires, if you guys have been following the vlog over the last couple of weeks, we've been walking through a lot of burn zone, particularly the Dixie wildfire burn zone, which happened in 2021. and it's absolutely devastating to see all the backcountry burnt. But it is pretty par for the course out here during summer. Most years there's a ton of wildfires, and every year PCT through hikers are affected by them. It does kind of seem like this year has been particularly bad. So many through hikers are having to skip hundreds of miles of trail, evacuate areas, that kind of thing. So it's been pretty crazy. In saying that, me and my trail family have actually been really lucky so far this year. There's a massive fire burning just behind us on trail, the Park wildfire. It's burning hundreds of thousands of acres, and I think like 200 or 300 miles of the Pacific Crest Trail have been closed. We literally just walked those 200 or 300 miles of trail in the last couple of weeks, and we just got through before the fire started. There's also a massive fire, the Shelley fire, just north of us, and that's been burning for the last few weeks. We're about to hit it as it's been pretty much fully contained, so we're not actually going to have to skip as much trail as we thought. Probably only 30 miles, so we've had it pretty good so far. Looking further north to Oregon and Washington, there are a ton of other wildfires burning. It's a bit hard for us to plan for those though. We're still a few weeks away and these fires move really quickly. We're hoping that they'll be contained, the ones that are affecting the PCT anyway, and we won't have to skip too much more trail, but it is likely that we'll have to detour around some parts in those states. Overall, I'm hoping to not skip more than a couple hundred miles before we hit Canada. I gotta say a massive thank you to all of you who have expressed concern for our safety with these wildfires. I appreciate all the messages, all the prayers, and just letting you know we are not taking any risks out here. If there's smoke on the trail, we'll skip around it. If the fire is anywhere near the trail, we'll skip around it. If the trail closes in any capacity, we will not be walking through. The Pacific Crest Trail Association have been really good with updating through hikers on the wildfire situations. We have all the apps and all the resources needed to make the correct decisions. So if we have to skip trail to get to Canada, we'll do just that. I also just want to say a massive thank you to all the firefighters on the ground fighting these wildfires, keeping everyone safe, including us through hikers. I've had messages from Australian firefighters who are flying over to the US to help fight fires. I've had a couple of American firefighters messaging me updates from the ground as they fight fires. So I'm super grateful for you all. You're amazing, and stay safe. All right, that's it from me today. Let me know if you guys enjoy these longer style videos with me just rambling a lot about certain topics. We're planning to do quite a few miles today. As I said, we're only a few days away from hitting the Shelley Fire burn zone, so of course I'll document us skipping around that and how that all works. We're probably only about a week away from our next section on the PCT, the state of Oregon, so very much looking forward to that. I'll see you tomorrow. Good morning on day 91 of my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. Today also marks the end of week 13, walking all day, every day on the PCT, 13 weeks, absolutely crazy. We're also only about a week away from Oregon, which is our second state on trail. We'll be finishing up California very soon, but there's still plenty of challenges to face before we reach that point. Let's get to it.
A lot of hikers have been forced to skip this section of trail due to a nearby wildfire. That fire has been mostly contained now though, and we're very lucky to be able to walk through freely. Today was one of my favorite days walking in Northern California. The Trinity Alps wilderness area is absolutely spectacular. We made great pace throughout the day and were on the lookout for a cool campsite before it got dark.
Just found a pretty epic spot to camp on this ridgeline. You can see we've set the tents up behind me. Hoping for a pretty epic sunset. We've got here with a bit of light left, which is unusual compared to the last few weeks, but stoked. We still got about 50 kilometers in, 31 miles or so, and yeah, we're gonna eat now and hopefully see some color.
It's not every night we find a campsite with such an epic view, and we were treated to an absolute belter of a sunset. This is why I love hiking in the backcountry so much. You don't get views like this in the city. We'll be back to it tomorrow. See you then.
Good morning on day 92 of my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. It is another spectacular morning here in Northern California. And it's actually kind of cold. For the first time in like 2 months, I'm wearing my puffy jacket while walking. It's been so hot recently with multiple heat waves passing through, but yeah, it's a cooler morning. Should be a cooler day today, and Planning to walk some big miles. Let's get it.
We're continuing to walk through the pristine Trinity Alps wilderness, and walking to the sun rising over these incredible landscapes never gets old. We had a goal to walk over 30 miles today to get us as close as we can to our next town stop of Etna. We have to skip around a short section of closed trail due to a wildfire, and going through Etna is going to be the easiest way to do it.
We've just passed the 20-mile mark for the day, feeling absolutely brilliant. I was just thinking back to the first couple of weeks on trail where 20 miles was such a huge accomplishment. I was super sore after a 20-mile day. Now 20 miles is nothing. We're going to be doing 30 to 35 miles today, and even that seems pretty normal. Crazy how the body adapts.
I've been feeling stronger than ever recently, and I'm looking forward to pushing myself further over the last couple months on the PCT. We made it to camp after about 33 miles walked. See you tomorrow.
The Californian wildfires have finally caught up with us. Up until this point, we've been very lucky with wildfires. We haven't had any issues with safety or had to skip any trail, but today we reached the burn zone of the Shelley wildfire. As far as I know, the wildfire is actually contained, but the trail is still closed, so we'll be skipping about 30 miles. This is day 93 of my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail.
While it's disappointing that we're forced to skip miles for the first time on our trek, we're grateful that it's not too many, way less than some other thru hikers. When the Shelley wildfire was in full blaze, thru hikers were having to skip up to 200 miles of trail. Now that it's mostly contained, the trail is opening up more each day, and it looks like we're going to have to only skip about 16 miles. To do that though, we're going to have to head off trail through the town of Etna, where we're planning to spend the night. We walked a pretty fast 20 miles this morning and were picked up by a friendly local right at the edge of the burn zone. We spent the rest of the day eating and doing our regular town chores. I really enjoyed my time in this beautiful little town. We'll be right back onto trail tomorrow morning, starting on the other side of the burn zone. See you then.
This is day 94 of our walk across America on the Pacific Crest Trail. Steve has just dropped us off at the Shackleford trailhead on the other side of the Shelley wildfire closure. So we've skipped, I think, about 16 miles of the PCT, which is actually not too bad. We originally thought we might have to skip 30, 50, 100 miles, but the trail is slowly opening back up. So we're back hiking, very much looking forward to today.
After a lovely night in the town of Etna, we're excited to get back to trail this morning. We had to walk about 7 miles on the Shackleford Trail to reconnect with the PCT north of the Shelley wildfire burn zone.
We are officially back on the PCT now, which feels pretty good. And we're only about 75 miles or so from the Oregon border, which is super exciting. Should be maybe 3 days, so keen for that.
With Oregon in sight, we're trying to make the most of our last few days in California. NorCal has been surprisingly beautiful, and today was no different, with spectacular views around every corner. The last few miles today were particularly amazing, with the sun setting and friendly deer everywhere around trail. Tomorrow we hit the small town of Side Valley before making the final push to the border. See you then.
Today is day 95 of my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. It is a stunning morning. Really trying to take in these last couple sunrises in California. Tomorrow we hit the state of Oregon, which is pretty crazy, pretty exciting, and should be able to get in some good miles today towards that goal.
This morning's trail was essentially 20 miles of downhill into the small town of Side Valley. I was able to move pretty quickly all morning and cover some good miles, which was handy because this afternoon is supposed to get scorching hot.
So there hasn't been much road walking on the Pacific Crest Trail, which is really cool. There's just been mostly beautiful single track for the last couple thousand miles. But I'm on a 6-mile stretch of road at the moment. Not quite as fun. I'm actually going to try and run as much of it as I can, or jog at least. I do miss running, which I used to do quite a lot before the trail. We'll see where the fitness is at, I guess.
The last couple hours into town were on gravel roads, and I was able to move faster than ever, only stopping to pick blackberries on the side of the road. Eventually I made it into Side Valley, with the temperature reaching over 100 degrees as I walked in. Emma, Dan and I ate some food, resupplied, and walked to the nearby caravan park where we decided to spend the night. A lot of other thru hikers had the same idea to get out of the heat, and we had a great time hanging out in the grass all afternoon. We're hoping to make it to the Oregon border tomorrow. See you then.
Today is our last full day in the state of California here on the Pacific Crest Trail. We've been walking for 96 days across America. Finally going to be entering our second state. This morning's been pretty hectic. We're almost at the top of our 4,000 foot climb. We started in the dark and hopefully we'll get a pretty big day in towards Oregon. Whew, so excited.
The one benefit to hiking for hours uphill is usually you get a pretty good view at the top. That was certainly true this morning, with the sun rising over the spectacular landscape after one of our biggest climbs so far on the PCT. The vertical gain didn't really stop there though, as we walked along beautiful but undulating terrain for the rest of the day.
Today has been a tough day. We knew it would be hard. There was a massive climb up a mountain out of town this morning, but we've ended up doing over 9,000 feet of vertical gain, which I think is the most we've done in a single day on the Pacific Crest Trail. That includes the Sierras. It's just been up, down, up, up, up all day long. So we haven't quite covered as many miles as we hoped. Still 30 miles in the bag, about 5 miles away from the Californian-Oregon border. So we'll hit that tomorrow. Super exciting. For now, I'm keen to get to camp and take a load off.
With another tough but epic day on the PCT in the books, we're keen to reach Oregon and beyond tomorrow. See you then.
Today is my 97th day walking the length of California on the Pacific Crest Trail. 97 days in one state. But that does change today. In about an hour, I'll be crossing the California-Oregon border, reaching Section 4 and State number 2 on the Pacific Crest Trail. It's a big day. I'm very excited. Let's get it done.
It was a spectacular last morning in California with an epic sunrise, beautiful views, and we even passed by this historic cabin that had been restored recently. After a brief break, it wasn't long before we reached the border sign, marking a huge milestone on the PCT.
We made it to Oregon. State number 2 on the PCT.
It was a pretty special moment. It's taken us a long time to get here, and I was stoked to share it with Emma and Dan, who I've spent the last 3 months hiking with. Our first couple miles in Oregon were pretty awesome, and I'm looking forward to spending the next couple weeks exploring this beautiful state.
I've just reached a camping spot where I'm going to set up for the night. 50 kilometers walked. I'm only a few miles out of the town of Ashland, which will be our first town stop in Oregon. I'm going to walk in there tomorrow and probably spend most of the day, if not a night, in town, which will be really cool. But happy to be here, new state, so exciting.
I'm super excited for tomorrow and beyond. See you then.
Today is my 100th day hiking across America on the Pacific Crest Trail. Pretty incredible, 100 days living out here in the backcountry. We've just come off 2 fairly low mileage days in and out of the town of Ashland here in Oregon, and today looking to get back to some big mileage, hoping to get to Washington within a couple of weeks. So time to get moving.
With Oregon being the shortest section on the PCT, as well as being the flattest, we should be able to get some big miles in over the next couple of weeks. We're hoping to get about 35 miles in today on day 100. We were very lucky to find a cooler full of soft drink this morning on trail, and even luckier to run into a big group camping just off the PCT who invited us for lunch. The ridiculous kindness of complete strangers continues to be a massive highlight for me on the PCT, and every person I meet gives me a massive boost as I continue heading north. As if we weren't spoiled enough today, Curtis, who lives nearby, had driven out to a highway crossing to provide trail magic to thru hikers. We barely even ate any of our own food today, which is pretty unusual, and after just over 35 miles of walking, we made it to this cool cabin in the woods where I set up to sleep. We'll be back to it tomorrow morning. See you then.
This is day 101, walking all day, every day across America. I'm currently about 2/3 of the way through the incredible Pacific Crest Trail. I finished walking the length of California, currently walking the length of Oregon, and I'm very excited to get to Washington and eventually Canada.
Oregon is known for its spectacular volcanic regions, and this morning we got our first taste of volcanic trail, which we'll experience sporadically throughout the state. The landscapes and environments along the Pacific Crest Trail are extremely diverse. It's one of the reasons the trail is so popular. I'm really excited to continue to see change as we head further north through Oregon and Washington.
We've walked just over 20 miles for the day so far, on track for about 35 for the second day in a row, making some really good progress towards a really iconic PCT destination, Crater Lake.
We'll have to detour around some closed trail due to wildfires just north of Crater Lake in a couple of days, but luckily the lake itself is still open to visit. The smoke blowing in from the wildfires has been cause for a bit of concern lately on trail, so hopefully it clears up by tomorrow. One way or another, we'll be back hiking tomorrow morning. See you then.
It is very smoky this morning on the Pacific Crest Trail. There are a couple wildfires burning just north of us that we're going to have to deal with in the next day or two. But I'm very excited for today. We're hitting the iconic Crater Lake, which I've been very much looking forward to. One of the highlights of the state of Oregon. And hopefully the smoke blows away and we're able to enjoy it fully this afternoon and tomorrow. This is day 102, hiking across America on the Pacific Crest Trail.
Smoky skies make for some incredible sunrises, but when you can start to smell and taste the smoke in the air, it's definitely not ideal. The hiking today was pretty tough. Besides the smoke, there was lots of rocky trail and temperatures soared well over 100 degrees. Despite all that, it was still a beautiful day on trail, and we were super excited to officially enter our 5th US National Park on the Pacific Crest Trail. I've been anticipating seeing Crater Lake since before even starting the PCT, and I'm super excited to walk the Crater Lake Rim Trail tomorrow. We made it to the nearby Mudassar village a little later than expected today, so we'll camp here tonight and head up to the lake tomorrow morning. See you then.
This is day 103, walking from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. As you can see behind me, I am at Crater Lake, a pretty iconic destination here in the US. And today we are off the Pacific Crest Trail and on the Crater Lake Rim Trail for a little side mission. You can see why we've made the detour. This is one of the most beautiful places I have ever seen.
We had coffee and pancakes at camp this morning thanks to Garen and Deidre before making our way up for our first view of Crater Lake. This is one of the stopovers on the PCT that I had super high expectations for, and it's not often that those spots live up to the hype. Crater Lake certainly did though. It's a really special place and honestly one of the most impressive natural landscapes I've ever seen. We spent a couple hours enjoying the incredible views along the Crater Lake Rim Trail, but unfortunately the smoke eventually blew in from nearby wildfires. We unfortunately have to skip about 80 miles north of Crater Lake on the Pacific Crest Trail due to wildfire closures. We were very lucky though that a local couple, Judy and Tony, offered us a ride around the closure. We'll continue hiking north tomorrow morning from Shelter Cove Resort, who graciously offered Emma, Dan and I a cabin for the night.
Just got to say a massive thank you to the team at Shelter Cove Resort. They have put Dan, Emma and I up in a cabin overlooking the lake. Very, very luxury compared to what we usually do on trail. So this is very nice. Back on trail tomorrow morning, but we'll enjoy this. This is day 104, walking from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. We are back heading north towards Canada after skipping a section of the trail that was closed due to wildfires. Hopefully we're in the clear now. We spent a night and a beautiful morning at Shelter Cove Resort, and the weather's supposed to be good. There's no smoke in the air this morning. Hopefully we're in for a good day on trail.
This morning was probably one of my favourite mornings so far on the PCT. There was something about the sunlight piercing through the canopy of the forest and a multitude of pristine mountain lakes that made me feel really at peace out here. Of course, I took a dip in one of the lakes and made sure to really take in the beauty and remoteness that this adventure continues to offer up each day. It's funny how fast the landscapes can change out here though, and we soon found ourselves walking through a burn zone that gave off real apocalyptic vibes. Regardless, we were able to make good pace all day and walked a little over a marathon for day 104. We were lucky to be able to return to the land of the living towards the end of the day and found a really cool lakeside campsite to settle in for another night in the wild. See you tomorrow.
This is day 105 of my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. Speaking of Canada, only about 700 miles away, which is kind of crazy, on the home stretch officially, but there are plenty of complications between here and there on trail, wildfires and a bunch of other stuff. Today I thought I'd do a little trail life update, give you guys my plans and some of my thoughts leading into these last few weeks on trail. So as you guys know, we've been dealing with wildfires over the last month or so in Northern California and also Oregon. We've had to skip about 100 miles of trail due to these wildfires so far, which honestly isn't too bad. Every year through hikers generally skip trail due to wildfires, and we've had it okay so far. We've gotten pretty lucky. But looking ahead, specifically to Washington, it looks like there is a lot of fires burning at the moment. We might have to skip quite a lot of trail. Worst case scenario, we may not even be able to reach the northern terminus. I know a few people that are ahead of me on trail who are actually leaving before even finishing, just because of all the smoke and the danger that the wildfires pose. I'm honestly not too upset about missing some miles on the PCT. Up until this point, I've walked over 300 extra miles off trail on different side missions. So even if I have to skip a couple hundred miles of the PCT, it'll kind of balance itself out anyway. In saying all that, there's not a whole lot I can do at this point. I'm just gonna keep heading north while I can and hope that the fires clear by the time I get up to Washington. We've also got a couple of other little detours before we hit Washington. Tomorrow we are heading into the town of Bend in Oregon. Emma has some family there which we're going to stay with for a day, which is going to be a lot of fun. And then we're heading up to Cascade Locks, which is a town on the border of Oregon and Washington. And every year there is a big Pacific Crest Trail festival called PCT Days held there, where past, current and future thru hikers, gear vendors, general public all come together to hang out and celebrate all things PCT. So the next week on trail is going to be pretty relaxed compared to what we've been doing. Good chance to reset, recoup, and plan ahead for the next month or so on trail. I'm also planning to attempt the 24-hour challenge here on the PCT, aka to try and walk as many miles as possible in a 24-hour period. So that's going to be a fun one to film. Probably going to hurt a lot, but looking forward to that. Before I go, just wanted to say a massive thank you to you all for following along this journey. All your comments, all your messages are massively appreciated. Huge motivators for me each and every day. 105 days in, absolutely wild. A special thanks goes out to my Instagram subscribers and my Patreon members. You guys financially support me out in the PCT, and it would not be possible without you. That's a fact. Thank you guys all so much. All right, I am almost at camp. 53 kilometers, 33 miles walk today. Another big one in the books. Excited to hit Bend tomorrow, spend some time in town. I'll see you then. I woke up with frost on my tent this morning. It was very, very cold last night, but I'm warming up now that I'm moving and very excited to be walking through Three Sisters Wilderness. Absolutely stunning area. This is day 106, walking from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. This section of Oregon is said to be one of the most beautiful in the state, with snow-capped mountains and volcanoes on every horizon. I've been looking forward to walking through Three Sisters Wilderness and beyond for quite some time now. It was a really unique and spectacular day on trail, walking across volcanic terrain like nothing we've seen before. The rocky trail was definitely tough on the legs and the ankles, but I've actually really enjoyed the varying terrain types that we've experienced so far on the PCT, and this volcanic trail was no different. We were really excited to reach a road though, where Emma's sister, Iris, met us to take us into the town of Bend. We're planning to spend the next day or two relaxing in Bend before heading up to the PCT Days Thru Hiker Festival, which I'm really looking forward to. Stay tuned for some zero-day content over the next couple days. See you then. This is day 111, walking from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. We've just had 4 days off trail, which was incredible. A couple days in the town of Bend, relaxing, and a couple days at Cascade Locks, which is further off trail from where we are now for the PCT Days Thru Hiker Festival, which was incredibly fun. Met some awesome people there, had some great time off, but definitely hanging to get back on trail. So excited to be here. Got about a week left in Oregon before our final state of Washington, and I'm excited to head north. We got back onto the PCT exactly where we left off, within Three Sisters Wilderness on some pretty dramatic trail. This volcanic rock makes for some pretty tough walking, but also a really unique and spectacular landscape. We even found some cool lava tunnels to explore before passing by Big Lake Youth Camp with a really cool setup for hikers. Organisations like this that are located near the PCT are often super generous to thru hikers, probably because so many of us have come through over the years in need of things. In a couple of days, Dan, Emma and I are planning to attempt the 24-hour challenge, aka walking as many miles as possible in 24 hours. Until then, we'll keep our daily mileage a bit lower than usual as to not wear ourselves out. It was a beautiful afternoon on trail today, and we reached camp after about 22 miles of walking. There should be another fun one tomorrow. See you then. This is day 112 of my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. I'm in Central Oregon and I'm absolutely loving it. Every day is incredible out here. There's a cloud inversion right behind me this morning. We're just walking past big volcanoes, big mountains all the time. That's not going to change today. Heading towards Mount Jefferson and the iconic Mount Hood. So very much excited to keep heading north and exploring this beautiful state.
The views on trail this morning were some of the best I've experienced on the entire PCT. Oregon has honestly been an absolute dream to walk. The trail is easier than other sections and every day just seems to get more beautiful. We walked past the epic Three-Fingered Jack and towards Mount Jefferson for most of the day. We met a cute dog who's also hiking the PCT and kept a pretty relaxed pace for most of the day as we're planning something pretty crazy tomorrow.
As you guys have seen, I love taking side missions and I love doing PCT challenges. I've done a few so far on the trek. Tonight, I'm going to begin probably the biggest challenge so far, the 24-hour challenge, which is essentially just trying to walk as many miles as possible in a 24-hour period on trail. We're going to be doing from midnight to midnight. Don't know how many hours of sleep I'm going to manage, but hopefully as many as possible. And tomorrow's video should be a pretty wild one.
Fingers crossed I can get some sleep. See you tomorrow.
We have woken up at midnight to do something a little stupid today, the 24-hour challenge. Essentially walking as many miles as possible in a 24-hour period. We have chosen to go from midnight to midnight. Dan, Emma and I are going to suffer a little bit today. This is day 113, walking from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. I am 4 hours in to the hike so far, 4 a.m. Done about 15 miles or just under. The start of the trail today was about a 2,000 foot climb up to the top of this peak. There's snow everywhere, it's super rocky, so definitely a tough start, but now that I'm here, I think the rest of today is downhill on average, so should be able to pick up the pace again, and the sun's coming out very soon, which will help as well. It is just about 6 a.m, so the sun is coming up, which is huge. Light, warmth, it's going to help us pick up the pace and give us a bit of a reset, I think. Almost 20 miles done, so doing pretty well so far, considering that was probably the hardest chunk of trail that we'll have to walk over the next 24 hours. It has just passed 8 a.m, so 8 hours moving so far. One marathon done. I'm on track to walk 60 to 70 miles today, so that's the goal. I'm gonna try and keep moving all day and just see how far I can get, but feeling good still and the sun's up, so more motivated than ever. Okay, it is midday, the halfway point. 12 hours in, 12 hours to go. I have walked 41 miles or about 66 kilometers, so pretty happy with that. I'm definitely going to slow down in the second half as I start to fatigue. The legs are definitely starting to feel it, and I think I've got a bit more uphill on the second half as well. So going to have a lunch break pretty soon, take 30 or 40 minutes off the legs, and then hopefully come home pretty strong. 15.5 hours in, just crossed the double marathon mark, so about 52 miles in the books. I'm still feeling really good actually. Somehow I'm actually moving faster as the day wears on. It helps that I just got some amazing trail magic from this legend camped out in the forest. That was a nice little boost, but still a fair way to go today, but I've got plenty of time. So I'm almost 100 kilometers in and I just got the biggest morale boost. On this random bridge in the middle of nowhere was a note in a Ziploc bag from an 8-year-old girl named Emily, who has hiked some of the PCT after watching my videos and wrote me a beautiful letter, made me a little bracelet. That is just what I needed. Someone also just told me that there's trail magic up ahead. Second trail magic for today, so double morale boost. I'm a happy man.
Oh, nice.
Dan has caught up to me and we have just hit a pretty massive milestone, 100 kilometers or just under 65 miles. Somehow we're feeling pretty good still. The sun is setting in an hour or two, I think. So we're getting close to our midnight cutoff and we think we can make it all the way to Timberline Lodge, which is was kind of the big goal if we felt good. So we'll end up doing like 75 miles or something ridiculous, but we've got to keep moving for the next few hours and I think we can do it. After 24 hours of hiking, we've made it to camp right near Timberline Lodge, 123 kilometers, 76 miles. Dan and I are both absolutely shattered. We've got some serious butt chafe, some seriously sore legs, but we're extremely satisfied and quite proud, I think, of the effort we put in today. Tomorrow morning we'll head to Timberline Lodge, grab a buffet and hopefully let these legs recover a bit. See you then. This is day 114 of my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. Yesterday I walked for 24 hours straight. I walked 76 miles or 123 kilometers. So as you can imagine, I am a little bit sore today. We are at the iconic Timberline Lodge. This is where they filmed the movie The Shining, which is pretty cool. We're actually going to take a full day off here, spend the night at the lodge and recover a little bit. Not going to film much today, but I thought I'd give you guys a little insight on how I'm feeling after such a big effort on trail yesterday. No injuries, which is great. Overall, I feel really good actually. All my tendons and ligaments and all that kind of stuff that usually are prone to overuse on that kind of mileage are fully intact. I'm very happy with how the body's holding up. In saying that, all my muscles are very sore. I think I used every fiber in every muscle in my legs yesterday, my quads, my hamstrings, my glutes, my calves, all very sore. So the plan today is to just eat as much food as possible. Timberline is famous for its buffets. Gonna have multiple buffets today and hopefully sleep as many hours as I possibly can. We'll be back out onto trail tomorrow to get some miles in and hopefully by then I am recovered and feeling good. So excited for a day off today. That's all from me. Yeah, see you tomorrow. This is day 115 of my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. We have just left Timberline Lodge after a very relaxing day off there yesterday. We are walking alongside Mount Hood, which is pretty incredible. Unfortunately, it's quite cloudy this morning, but hopefully we'll get some views a bit later. We are 2 days away from reaching our final state, our final section of the Pacific Crest Trail, Washington. Very excited for that and yeah, the next 2 days are promising some pretty epic views, so can't wait.
The views, at least for now, were shrouded in clouds, and the weather forecast for today wasn't looking very good. Despite the conditions, we were excited to be back walking and inching ourselves closer to the Washington-Oregon border. My friend Nolan is joining us for this stretch, and he hasn't done much hiking before, so it should be an interesting couple of days.
All right, we're about 10 miles into the day, and the rain has begun. According to the forecast, it's going to be a pretty wet afternoon.
Yeah, boy, it's cold.
It's going to get cold
Stop
and
talking.
a little bit miserable, I think. So
It's cold.
oh, let's see how we go.
Despite the weather, we were moving pretty well and even made a couple of side trips off the PCT, including this one to see this incredible waterfall. The weather continued to worsen into the afternoon and we made the decision to push on into the night to reach a campsite further down trail. It was honestly a pretty miserable last couple of hours, especially for Nolan, but we did make it to camp and got warm and dry, ready for another big day tomorrow. See you then.
Good morning on day 116 of my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. It was a rough night. We got in late, it was wet, windy, lightning all night, and we've woken up to more of the same. So we've got, I think, 20 miles left of the state of Oregon. It's not going to be the funnest 20 miles, but we should make it to the border sometime this afternoon and hopefully able to dry off and enjoy it a bit. Whew.
With only one day of hiking left until we reached the final section of the Pacific Crest Trail, the state of Washington, we couldn't help but be excited despite the crappy conditions. The rain did seem to settle down as we slowly descended out of the mountains, and pretty much the only good thing about a stormy night like we experienced last night is that the rain fills up the waterfalls and rivers, of which there are plenty in this section. There was one particular waterfall that we've been looking forward to for a few days now, called Tunnel Falls. It's pretty damn impressive, and the trail actually goes right underneath the waterfall itself through a tunnel carved out of the rock. After about 25 miles of walking, we made it down to the road and eventually the town that sits on the border of Oregon and Washington. We've made it to town, Cascade Locks, right on the border of Oregon and Washington. We were here about a week ago for PCT Days Trail Festival, but we are back on foot this time. We'll spend the night in town and then head into Washington tomorrow morning. See you then. This is day 117 of my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. We are crossing the Bridge of the Gods from Oregon into our final state, our final section of the PCT, Washington. Oh, it's been an incredible journey so far. I'm very excited for this final chapter. Crossing the Bridge of the Gods is a pretty iconic moment for any PCT through hiker, and it's safe to say it was a moment filled with emotion and anticipation for this final chapter on our journey. Washington began with a pretty gnarly mountain climb, and the whole way up, all I could think about was how close we are to the end of this journey.
It's honestly really surreal to finally be here in Washington. We are legitimately on the home stretch now. I don't really know how to feel about it. On one hand, I really miss home. I'm really tired and I can't wait to finish. But then on the other hand, I don't really know if I want the adventure to end. Just thinking about the last 100 or so days, everything we've been through, it's been the most incredible journey and it's gonna feel very weird to finish that. But just gonna try and make the most of every day while I'm still out here, and we'll see how the next couple of weeks unfold as we head towards Canada.
We settled into camp, excited for what's ahead. See you tomorrow.
Good morning on day 118 of my walk across America on the Pacific Crest Trail. This is my first morning waking up in the state of Washington. It really feels like the beginning of the end, and there's less than 500 miles till I reach the US-Canada border. Washington has got a lot of incredible landscapes and highlights in store for us. I'm really looking forward to this final chapter.
Our first section in Washington, from the border to White Pass, is about 6 days long, and we've heard it's some of the most beautiful hiking on the PCT. Our first couple of days, day 118 and 119, were mostly through the forest, so we didn't get too many views. When we did get a chance to see the horizon at the top of a big climb or along a ridge line, it was pretty damn spectacular, with massive volcanoes in the distance everywhere you looked.
All right, I'm about to get to camp on day 119. I've walked about 32 miles today, so a big day. Did about 30 miles yesterday on day 118, so yeah, feeling really strong and hopefully going to continue the big miles as we head closer and closer to Canada. Tomorrow we're actually taking a reroute around a fire closure on the PCT. The last couple of closures we've skipped around via car, but this one there's actually a reroute we can take on foot, so that's going to be nice, and really looking forward to getting on the other side and back to the PCT.
I'll see you tomorrow.
This is day 120 of my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. Today we are going to be hitting a wildfire closure on trail, which means we are going to have to skip around it somehow. In the past we've driven around these closures, but today we have found a route that we can walk, and that isn't too much longer than the PCT itself. So we're going to be following forest roads and some other trails around the closure and hopefully reconnect with the PCT a bit later on. Let's get it done.
It was only a couple miles of hiking before we reached the taped off trail where the Forest Service has closed the PCT. We'll be walking a lot of road today on the detour, which is not quite as exciting as a usual day on trail, but at least it'll be something new. One benefit to walking on or near roads is that we pass by a lot of car camping areas, usually with a privy and some friendly people. One amazing family invited us into their campsite and cooked us up some incredible food for lunch. Despite all the road walking, there were definitely some beautiful moments throughout the day, but we were happy to make it to camp not too far off from reconnecting with the PCT. Tomorrow we walk into Goat Rocks Wilderness, which is supposedly one of the most spectacular sections on this entire trek. I cannot wait. See you then.
Good morning on day 121 of my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. We are just walking the last couple miles of the wildfire detour that we started yesterday, and we'll be back onto the PCT very shortly, entering Goat Rocks Wilderness, which is supposed to be one of the most spectacular sections of trail in Washington. Very much looking forward to today.
We were expecting some incredible views of Washington's biggest mountains as we climbed out of the forest and into Goat Rocks Wilderness this morning. Mount Adams and Mount Rainier dominate the horizon in this area, and climbing up to the peaks and ridge lines on trail today should give us a pretty good view of them. The conditions were pretty perfect for hiking today, and despite some difficult terrain and big elevation gain, we were excited to be up in the open in these alpine regions.
We made it to an epic campsite with clear views of both Adams and Rainier, just in time for sunset. We're hoping to get up for sunrise tomorrow and climb a little higher up where the views should be out of this world. See you then. Welcome to day 122 walking from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. We've gotten up before sunrise this morning to summit Old Snowy Mountain here in Goat Rocks Wilderness. We got views of Mount Adams, Mount St. Helens and the incredible Mount Rainier. Pretty good way to start the day, and we're walking out to White Pass today for resupply, so very excited.
It was a very early and very cold start to the day because we really wanted to make the most of our current location. It was definitely worth it though. We had views of Mount Adams, Mount St. Helens and Mount Rainier from the exact same spot on our way up to climbing Old Snowy. It was honestly one of the most incredible mornings I've had on the Pacific Crest Trail, and our descent down the mountain was just as cool along the Knife's Edge Trail. This is the type of day that really reminds me why I love hiking. You'll never see these spots in a car or on a bike. You've got to walk here. We were excited though to reach the trailhead and were able to catch a ride pretty quickly into the town of Packwood where we'll resupply. It's a really cool little town. There's even views of Mount Rainier here. We had dinner and we'll settle in for the night before heading back to trail tomorrow morning for another stint in the backcountry. See you then.
This is day 123 walking from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. We are in the small town of Packwood in Washington currently. We spent the night here and we're doing a quick resupply at the grocery store and then heading it back to trail. Should be a good one.
After buying some food for the next section on trail, we explored the local town market before trying to hitchhike out of town back to the PCT trailhead. I'm always amazed that people are willing to pick up stinky and gross looking hikers off the side of the road and take them where they want to go. These people were super nice and they brought us back to the trail where we got a late start for the day. Due to our late start, we weren't able to get too many miles in, but still managed a half marathon walking into the night. We've got about a 4-day stretch ahead of us before we reach our next resupply point at Snoqualmie Pass. I'll see you tomorrow.
Good morning on day 124 of my walk across America on the Pacific Crest Trail. Today we are entering our 6th US National Park on the PCT, Mount Rainier National Park. So very excited. By all accounts, we're going to get some pretty spectacular views today. Should be a good one.
It was a hilly morning of hiking as we ascended towards a pretty incredible viewpoint of Mount Rainier. We officially entered Mount Rainier National Park, which was pretty cool, and slowly started crossing paths with lots of day hikers out exploring. We eventually crossed the road and found the car park where all the day hikers were coming from, which was packed to the brim, probably because it was the weekend. We didn't stay there long. We're not used to being around so many people, and we headed back out into the mountains, which were super beautiful in the afternoon light.
I've just crossed over the marathon mark for the day. Going to push on for about 30 miles. It's been a bit of a slow one actually. There's been a lot of hills. It's been surprisingly hot as well, but the views have just been endless today as we've walked sort of adjacent to Mount Rainier National Park. So damn beautiful. Should be at camp soon, hopefully before it gets too dark.
We made it to camp after about 32 miles walked, and we're only a couple of days away from our next resupply point at Snoqualmie Pass. See you tomorrow.
I have walked over 2,500 miles or 4,000 kilometers on my trek across America. I've literally only got a couple hundred miles to go. It's pretty surreal to think about. This journey's coming to an end in only a couple of weeks. Just gonna try and make the most of every day while I'm still on trail. This is day 125 of my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail.
It was another gorgeous morning in the Washington State wilderness, and we came across this pretty cool cabin in the middle of nowhere. It's spots like these where thru hikers tend to congregate, and we soon found ourselves hanging out with a bunch of other hikers, some of which we haven't seen in a long time. I've met so many incredible human beings from all across the world while hiking the PCT, and we all tend to bond together pretty naturally, just based on the crazy adventure that we're all on together. The views today, as usual in Washington, were out of this world, and also as usual we found ourselves hiking into the night to get some extra miles in.
So I'm walking into the night and I just saw the biggest black bear on trail. Well, it crossed from the right to the left, and yeah, my heart rate is absolutely skyrocketed. Freaked me to flip out, but it didn't seem to want anything to do with me, so we went in opposite directions, and I'm very excited to get to camp, that's for sure. Whew.
We'll be back on trail and reaching our next resupply point tomorrow. See you then.
Good morning on day 126 of my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. This morning we are walking towards Snoqualmie Pass. We're about 20 miles away, give or take, and Snoqualmie marks roughly the halfway point of the state of Washington. So we're really on the home stretch now, only a couple of weeks left on trail, and we're excited to make the pass and resupply, give the bodies a little bit of a rest as well.
It was a very gloomy morning on trail, with clouds engulfing the mountains we were walking on, providing quite a unique atmosphere for hiking. We were in and out of the clouds all day, and it was really beautiful hiking most of the time, but as with always on town days, we were mostly just excited to get to civilization. We started passing day hikers after about 20 miles walk today, which meant we were definitely close to Snoqualmie Pass. We eventually made it in and headed straight for a local cafe to recoup some calories. We put together a resupply for our next section on trail and headed to a nearby lodge, which was a really cool spot to spend the night. Our next section will be a pretty challenging 3 days between Snoqualmie Pass and Stevens Pass. See you tomorrow.
This is day 127 of my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. We spent the night here at the Washington Alpine Club at Snoqualmie Pass. It was a very nice time. We actually spent about half of today here. So it's just after midday. We are heading back to trail. Hopefully get in a few miles before dark. Excited to keep heading north.
With a late start and a big climb ahead, we knew it would be likely to be walking well after sunset to get our planned miles in for the day. That was okay though. Our legs were feeling fresh after a morning of relaxation, and we had heard that this section was absolutely spectacular, so we were excited to get up high. It wasn't long before we were well and truly back in the mountains amongst incredible landscapes and cute little pikers. The clouds rolled in more and more as the day wore on, which made for some pretty dramatic scenes. After walking below and through the clouds for a few hours, we eventually passed through the cloud layer just as the sun was setting and witnessed some of the most epic views we've had on the entire PCT. It's always tempting to set up camp and stop for the day when it starts getting dark, but it's moments like these that I'm reminded it's sometimes worth it to push on that little bit further. We really made sure to make the most of the views tonight. We'll be finishing the PCT soon. We're on the home stretch, and soon enough we won't have the opportunity to have these experiences anymore. We ended up pushing another hour or so into the night and found a spot to camp. I'll see you again tomorrow.
This is day 128 of my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. Last night was probably one of the best views of my life, walking along alpine ridgelines here in Washington, sun setting above the clouds. Pretty damn special. I think Washington is becoming my favorite section of the PCT, and I cannot wait to explore it a little bit more today.
It was another beautiful Washington sunrise this morning, but we knew today was going to be a pretty tough one. We're hoping to reach our next resupply at Stevens Pass tomorrow afternoon, but to get in early enough, we're going to have to push for some pretty big miles today. Big mile days were a lot easier in Northern California and Oregon, where the terrain was a lot flatter and less technical. Washington has a lot of hills, but I think they're worth it with the incredible beauty we get to see every single day. It was a long and exhausting day on trail today though, with 33 miles walked and over 6,500 feet of elevation gain. We arrived to camp after dark and we'll get up early again tomorrow to make it to Stevens Pass and hopefully the town of Leavenworth. See you then.
Not gonna lie, I am exhausted this morning. Yesterday was a tough day with a late finish, and today looks like it's gonna be similarly difficult. But on the bright side, we are heading out to Stevens Pass at the end of today and into the town of Leavenworth, where we're planning to take a day off tomorrow. Our first day off in over 2 weeks, which is super exciting. I think the bodies really need it. This is day 129 of my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail.
The allure of a day off in town somehow always makes the legs move a little bit faster, and we made some good pace this morning despite some challenging terrain. Both the incredible views and the big mountain climbs continued throughout today, and the legs are definitely feeling the fatigue after a big couple weeks on trail with minimal rest. We had some great hiking weather today though, and I really felt like I was able to take in the landscapes we were traversing through despite the struggle. We've been really looking forward to reaching the town of Leavenworth for a couple weeks now. We've heard it's a lot of fun, and we're lucky enough to be offered a ride into town and accommodation by some friendly locals. We made it to the road at Stevens Pass after about a marathon walked, and Erica came to pick us up and took us back to her family home. I'm really looking forward to a day off here tomorrow, relaxing and exploring. See you then. This is day 130 of my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. We're taking a much needed day off in the small town of Leavenworth, and we're very lucky to be hosted by Carrie, Hans and Erica, the owners of the Leavenworth Reindeer Farm. They invited us to come down and take a tour of the reindeer farm, which was really cool. We were able to meet some of the 41 incredible reindeers that call this place home. It's not every day you get an experience like this. We're so grateful for the love strangers continue to show us as we walk across America. We spent most of the afternoon exploring the Bavarian-themed town of Leavenworth, which was a lot of fun. We'll be back on trail tomorrow morning, so we visited the gear store and the grocery store to resupply for the next section. We had some incredible food before heading back to the house to actually rest a little, which is usually a good idea on a 0 day. We sat ourselves on the couch to watch some quality American TV and even stayed up a little too late to catch an Australian rules football game that was happening back home. I'll see you tomorrow for some more hiking.
This is day 131 of my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. We are only about a week away from the Canada border. About a week left of hiking on the PCT. Pretty surreal. We've just spent a wonderful day in Leavenworth and we're currently out on about a 5-day stint in the backcountry. Cannot wait.
The next 5 days before our next resupply should be pretty interesting. There are a bunch of wildfires in the area and part of the PCT is actually closed, which means we had 2 options. We could either drive around this section, skipping a lot of trail, or find a way to walk around the closure. We want to avoid skipping trail wherever possible, so tomorrow we'll take a sanctioned detour around the closure off the PCT. It was a great day on trail today despite some smoke in the air, and we found an incredible campsite by this stunning lake for the night. We shared camp with a bunch of other hikers who have decided to brave the detour trail, so at least we'll have some company on this little side adventure. See you tomorrow.
The wildfires are back. I don't know if you can see behind me, but there is smoke in the air and there are fires somewhat nearby the trail. So today we are taking a detour around a closed section due to these wildfires. This is day 132 of my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail.
The amount of smoke in the mountains this morning was a little concerning, but we did meet a couple of rangers on trail who said the wildfires themselves shouldn't be too much of an issue for us on our planned route. For the first half of the day, we stuck to the Pacific Crest Trail, which was really beautiful despite the smoke. Eventually though, we reached the closure and the junction that would take us on our next little side adventure.
We just passed the 2,500 mile marker, which is super exciting, and we've just reached the junction where we're turning off the PCT today. From here on out, there are fire closures, and so we're doing about a 40-mile reroute around those closures, which hopefully will keep us safe. It's supposed to be really beautiful even on the reroute, so kind of looking forward to it. Let's see how it goes.
We didn't really know what to expect on the detour. Not many other hikers have walked through before us. We did know there'd be plenty of overgrown and steep trail though, and heard there was a few river crossings as well. We made some good progress on the detour this afternoon, but it'll probably take another full day and a half of hiking to make it back to the PCT. Tomorrow should be a very interesting day. See you then.
This is day 133 of my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. We are spending the next 2 days off the PCT on a reroute around a wildfire closure. There are a bunch of fires burning here in northern Washington, and we're trying to dodge them while still walking as much trail as possible. So the next 2 days should be a bit of an adventure.
This reroute has proven to be quite difficult so far. These trails are barely walked and definitely not maintained like the PCT, so there's a lot of overgrown trail. There's also some steep and long climbs that we're going to have to do over the next couple of days, but luckily for us, the views have been absolutely sensational so far. We had a fast-flowing but manageable river crossing towards the middle of the day today, before tackling our toughest climb yet. They do say the toughest climbs come with the best views, and this one definitely proved that theory true. It's crazy to think that there are such incredible landscapes like this so close to the PCT that we never would have seen if it wasn't for the reroute. After a long day of hiking, we made it to a Forest Service road where we found a place to set up camp. We should be able to finish the detour tomorrow and get back to the Pacific Crest Trail. We're only a couple days away from reaching the small town of Stehekin, which will be our final resupply point of this entire journey. See you tomorrow. This is day 134 of my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. This is our third day on a detour around a closed section of the PCT due to wildfires. It hasn't been easy so far, and it's definitely not going to be easy today. We're starting with a 5,000 foot climb up to a high pass. There wasn't a lot of trail to follow as we got near the top, so we did our best to scramble and climb through the rocky terrain. As we experienced yesterday, the landscapes in this remote region of Washington are out of this world, and we even got a chance to walk on some snow for the first time in a long time. It was mostly slow moving on trail today. The terrain was really tough, and we took our fair share of breaks to enjoy the views. Towards the end of the day, we started getting close to rejoining the Pacific Crest Trail, and after 3 days on reroutes, it was a relief to finally get back.
We've made it back to the PCT after what feels like almost 3 days adventuring on a side mission around this closure. Well done, guys.
Well done.
To Canada.
We spent a couple hours hiking into the late afternoon to get closer to our next resupply point of Stehekin, which we'll reach tomorrow. See you then.
I have walked 135 days across America on the Pacific Crest Trail, and I have 1 week to go. Pretty surreal. I have just made it into my final town stop on the PCT, Stehekin. We walked about 10 miles this morning, caught a shuttle into town. It's absolutely stunning here. Just going to do a resupply, and we're probably going to spend the night here because apparently it's going to rain today. The sky doesn't look too appetizing, so we'll spend the night here. Also our last night in a town before we finish, and then there's I think 5 days till we reach Canada. Absolutely crazy. I'm not going to film too much more today, so I'll leave you there, but I'm excited, and I'll see you tomorrow. This is day 136 of my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. This feels crazy to say, but in 4 days, including today, we'll reach the Canada border and finish our journey on the PCT. I think it's going to be a very large mix of emotions over the next few days, but I'm just going to take it one day at a time, starting with today.
It was a pretty strange feeling this morning, leaving Stehekin, our last resupply town, and returning to the backcountry for the final stretch of trail on this incredible journey. We only have about 100 miles of trail left to walk before reaching the northern terminus at the US-Canada border. It's crazy to think that we've spent almost half an entire year getting to this point, walking thousands of miles, and very soon it'll all be over. It was some pretty relaxed hiking out of town this morning, including our last major road crossing on the PCT. The afternoon, though, involved a lot of climbing as we returned into the spectacular North Cascade Mountains.
Man, Washington is living up to its reputation of being extremely mountainous, down to the last day. Over 2,000 meters of vertical gain today, or about 6,500 feet. Legs are feeling it, but we've actually been pretty lucky. The rain has held off for the most part, which is really nice. I think it's supposed to be pretty wet the last few days that we have here on trail, so fingers crossed we get lucky there. Let's get to camp.
We set up our tents for one of the last times on trail, hoping that the rain would stay away. See you tomorrow.
Good morning on a very cold day 137 of my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. As you can see behind me, pretty spectacular views down at Am plus the mountains. It's 3 days till we reach Canada. We are counting down every day now and hopefully dodging the weather all the way to the border. Let's go.
Sunrise this morning was absolutely epic. The Pacific Crest Trail seems to be saving some of its best views till right at the end. Dan, Emma and I have been really trying to savor every moment we have left on trail. Before we know it, we'll be back at home wishing we had more miles left to hike. The incredible landscapes and weather in northern Washington today made it pretty easy to enjoy our third last day on trail. We managed to cover almost 30 miles today, which was a pretty good effort with all the mountains in our path. We made it to camp just in time before a storm rolled in and met up with some thru-hiker friends to enjoy one of our final dinners on trail together. We're within reaching distance of Canada now and should get most of the way there tomorrow. See you then.
This is day 138 of my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. We've just left Hart's Pass, which is the last road access point on the PCT. We have approximately 30 miles left to the US-Canada border. Our plan today is to walk about 25 miles and then tomorrow morning walk those last 5 miles to the northern terminus.
We awoke on this wet, cold Washington morning with a plan to walk to the last campsite on the PCT. We would be within 5 miles of the northern terminus, the US-Canada border, and the end of this journey. It's a pretty strange feeling, to be honest. I've been walking all day, every day for the last 5 months. For most of that time, I've been walking with 2 complete strangers that I met early on trail, and they've become 2 of my best friends. Dan, Emma and I are no doubt very excited to finish the Pacific Crest Trail, but I think we're all a little nervous on what life looks like after such a profound experience. We were rained on for a lot of this morning, but the afternoon brought blue skies, and we soaked in every step, every view, and every one of these last moments on trail. We made it to camp with plenty of light left in the day, and tomorrow morning we'll walk the final 5 miles to the northern terminus. See you then.
This is the final day, day 139 of my walk from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. I'm literally within about an hour of walking till I reach the northern terminus. Dan and Emma are just up ahead of me. I could not be happier to be finishing with these guys, 2 of my best mates who I've been walking with since pretty much the beginning of this journey. We're almost there. Let's go tag that terminus.
This morning was an emotional one, to say the least. It's pretty hard to put into words what's going through your mind on the last 5 miles of an almost 3,000 mile trek across the country. The Pacific Crest Trail has been my entire life for almost half a year, and it's pretty hard to fathom that it's all coming to a close so suddenly. I've experienced so much on this journey. I've met so many incredible people, I've seen so many incredible places, and to actually finish, despite all the struggle, the pain, the doubt and the fear, with people that I love, was one of the most incredible moments of my life. What? We reached the northern terminus of the Pacific Crest Trail after 139 days of walking.
Oh, I don't know if I can.
Go on.
Woo!
Woo!
Mexico to Canada, the craziest and most spectacular adventure I've ever been on. Technically, we hadn't finished hiking at the northern terminus. We have to walk roughly 30 miles back the way we came to reach road access. We didn't mind though. We got to see so many trail friends, new and old, as they were walking their final miles to Canada. Thanks to each and every one of you who have followed my journey on the Pacific Crest Trail. It's been an absolute honour to share this life-changing experience with you all. We do actually have to spend tonight on trail, so I guess I'll see you tomorrow for one last time.
Good morning on day 140 of my walk from Mexico to Canada, or should I say Canada to Mexico, on the Pacific Crest Trail. Yesterday we reached the northern terminus, tagged the border, turned around and started heading south. This morning we are continuing southbound with the goal of reaching Mexico. We are planning to walk the PCT in reverse, doing it all over again, and I cannot wait. Joking, we are not doing that. I am so done. But we are heading southbound, for about 30 miles to reach a road that we can get off this trail on because it's quite remote at the border.
It was a beautiful last morning on the Pacific Crest Trail as we backtracked towards Hart's Pass, where we'd be able to get a ride back to civilization. There was a lot to process during these final few miles as my journey officially comes to an end. I'm so proud of everything I accomplished over the last 5 months, and while it's sad to leave the trail behind, I'm so excited for this next chapter. The adventure wasn't quite over today though. We still had a long way to hitchhike, all the way to the city of Seattle. We were lucky to get a ride with a very friendly local to the small town of Mudassar, where we fashioned a sign and got to work for the long haul ahead. Hitchhiking's been a big part of the PCT journey so far, so it's only fitting that this is the way it ends as well. We had a fun day catching rides, and after about 7 hours and multiple different cars and buses, we made it to the big city. We met up with Lisa and Leah, who were a part of our original trail family and ended up finishing the PCT about a week before us. I'm planning to spend a couple more days in the US hanging out with friends and relaxing before heading back home to Australia. And that's a wrap on my PCT vlog series, 140 of the best days ever. Thanks so much for following along and for all the support. I can't wait to share heaps more with you guys